There will likely be exceptions for highly sensitive or senior roles. Jen McLaughlin, NPR News.
The Trump administration has put most of the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID, workforce around the world on administrative leave and froze its budget. Trump advisor Elon Musk says the agency is full of corruption and waste. NPR's Gabriela Emanuel says Ukraine is a big recipient of U.S. aid after Russia invaded the country.
Ukraine is among the top recipients of U.S. aid. It goes to things like rebuilding infrastructure after it's attacked by Russia, or seeds and fertilizer to build up the agriculture sector to get more exports. The Trump administration has issued some narrow waivers, but most things have stopped. For example, NPR's Ukraine Bureau has confirmed disruptions in the delivery of HIV/AIDS medication.
NPR's Gabriela Emanuel reporting total foreign assistance in 2023 was $66 billion. You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH newsroom. I'm Henry Santoro. Not long after President Donald Trump signed an executive order banning transgender women from competing in girls' and women's sports at the school and collegiate levels, Harvard Athletics removed its policy promising inclusion for transgender athletes from its website yesterday. Harvard's transgender inclusion policy had solidified the university's commitment to creating a space that is welcoming and inclusive to all identities, including but not limited to gender identity, gender expression, and sexual orientation. Trump's order, titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, allows the federal government to cut funds to educational institutions that allow trans women to compete in women's sports, and the order also directs the U.S. Department of Education to prioritize Title IX actions against schools that do not bar trans women from women's locker rooms. Meanwhile, supporters gathered at the State House yesterday to promote a bill that would allow student athletes to sit out games if players of the opposite sex are competing. Backers of the bill say they also support President Trump's executive order to ban transgender women from school sports. In sports, the Celtics play the Mavericks at the Garden tonight. In the forecast, snow changing to freezing rain this afternoon, high low 30s, and we got a clearing sky overnight tonight, low 36. Sun clouds, upper 30s tomorrow, then increasing clouds, and they're telling us a significant storm arriving on Saturday night into Sunday. Time to gas up the shovel. 29 degrees and snowing in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Sony Pictures Classics, presenting I'm Still Here, a film by Walter Salles starring Fernanda Torres. A woman is forced to reinvent herself after her family suffers an injustice by the Brazilian government, now playing select cities.
Eastern Brownie, I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, live from Brighton and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Senator Ed Markey zooms into the show today around 12:30. We'll ask him what the Democrats are doing. We're live at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. Governor Maura Healey will join us from 1 to 2 for another edition of Ask the Governor. And next Wednesday, Mayor Wu had to switch from Tuesday. She will join us at the library as well. Good morning, Jim.
Hey there. Do you think Harvard could act any more quickly to do whatever Trump tells them to do? Then it's the most powerful university
Says
in the
jump
world.
and they say how high.
Okay, first, here with us on the line is Chuck Todd. Chuck is the host of the Chuck Toddcast, political analyst, former NBC News guy for 17 years, and we are thrilled he is not a former Boston Public Radio guy. Chuck, great to see you.
Now
well,
what,
thanks
Chuck?
for having me.
Now
I can't
what?
wait.
What?
I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to ask Ed Markey because, these Senate Democrats have been so effective.
They really are.
Brilliant. Their strategy's unbelievable. Boy, they got stuff right where they want them.
Okay, well, before we get to the Senate Democrats kind of flummoxed, what about you? What's the deal? The podcast is going to stay. I was very distressed about that.
I'm very excited in that it's nice to know I've got a decent amount of demand for it. So I'm just honestly,
that's because it's my favorite.
Which podcasting network makes the most sense for me, right? By the way, what a world! I had no idea how big this world was. Like even more so, you don't. Frankly, you're sort of when you're in one company, had two employers for the last 30 years of my life. So I'm an unusual cat on that
Yeah.
stuff. But I've been impressed. I mean, I'm sort of overwhelmed by the number of successful podcasting networks that are out there, some of whom, have not dabbled in news before and politics before. So that's very exciting.
By the way, if you go to the chucktoddcast.com, you can sign up.
Go right now.
It'll let you know. Yep. I did it this morning. Why are you not at NBC News anymore? We talked to you at the time, the Ronna McDaniel thing, when you, former chair of the Republican Party, hired as an analyst at NBC News, you led the charge against it. Was that the beginning of the end, or is that unrelated to this?
Look, I don't think it's related. I mean, I don't want to get too much into that, to be frank. But I'm going to just say it this way. The last year is the first year in my professional life I've worked for an organization that wasn't interested in growing. Oh. And that's me. Okay. I say this, they're just, they're in a different position right now. I'm not faulting leadership, because I know some of this is about Comcast. Some is about their priorities. Sometimes, here's what I always say when you find out when you have a job to do, sometimes when you work in a larger organization, what problem are you trying to solve, right? And sometimes you think you're solving a problem they want to solve, and you find out, oh, they're not trying to solve that problem. They're trying to solve another problem, right? And I think that in that sense, where my focus would like to be and where their focus, which is in the same place. So it's not negative. It's just sort of, that happens sometimes. It's like a great relationship that was not meant to last more than 18 years, and that's okay.
Chuck, in your, I don't know if it was in the letter you wrote to your colleagues, but I know it was in the beginning of your podcast the other day. Yeah. You said the media has a lot of work to do to win back the trust. Flesh that out a little bit, if you would.
So, look, I have come to since I left Meet the Press, I've spent the last year trying to tackle this question in different ways. I've gotten to know the local news environment quite a bit. And it comes clear to me all the time that national media never had the trust of the public directly. National media acquired trust thanks to our local brothers and sisters. And when because people trust local, because they know either they know the person or they know somebody who knows the person. And when they confirm what you do, it makes, okay. I wondered if that was true, but if they're reporting it, okay. Well, when we got it local, we basically disconnected the public from news. We created a bigger, in the same way, I joke that the problem for journalism is the same problem as the Democratic Party. You got to go get back in touch with the voters. Go get back in touch with your consumers. I think we need to get closer to the ground again. I think the media had concentrated. It's become all national. Some of that is thanks to algorithms, right? But, the whole Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. Here's the thing. That should be the correct answer. But we've actually been treating it as if all politics is national. And I think the distrust that exists in these institutions with us in the press, politicians in general, are the farther you are away from the people who need to trust the institution. And so my thesis is if we're going to fix the trust in national media, it begins locally.
Well, something, Chuck, I differentiate between cable television, national news, and newspapers. I come from newspapers.
I wish more people were like you and did know how to do that. I think a lot of people don't.
Well, anyway, I think one of the things that's happened in terms of a lot of national TV, it's all talking heads. It's the Democrats, the Democrat comes on, the Republican comes on, then we have a panel. And, when you look at something, and now that you're no longer at NBC, I'll say something nice about our colleague John King from CNN. He's done a wonderful reporting series this year where what he did was run around and talk to farmers in Nebraska and people in Pennsylvania. And you listen to all these voters, and we remarked a lot of them were very supportive of President Trump, and you listen to the reasons that they were supportive of President Trump, and you thought, well, okay, you may not agree with them, but these were not lunatic, nasty people, and I think that was we don't see enough of that. I don't think
it brings. You guys brought up the Ron Romney thing, and I had some. The objections were how it was done. It was never the objection of the idea, but what was really sort of, I think, where you saw where they just didn't understand it, right? She neither provided insight about MAGA, nor about Trump, nor about, she just wasn't, if that's what you were looking for, again, I go back to the question, what problem are you trying to solve? She wasn't the right person to do that with. But I'm really starting to wonder how useful it is to have these so-called pundit experts on doing it from a partisan perspective, versus the issue isn't, the mistake that so many executives make in the news media is they think, oh, we need a conservative on the panel, right? Or we need to do this. When it isn't the people that are talking about the news, it's the issues themselves. If you want to earn back other viewers that you're not, why don't you cover stories that are of interest to them? That doesn't mean reporting the story for their point of view. It means actually reporting the issues that they're interested in. Or, more importantly, where I think that local news really helped us here, and because of the gutting of local news, it doesn't exist. Local news did a good job of explaining how a national issue impacted folks locally. And when that education got wiped out, thanks to Craigslist, okay, and I say this as a very, very superficial way of saying it, but essentially that was the beginning.
That was a big problem. And the car ads.
No, there's no doubt, And so when that went away, so I look at this as I've talked with some of these nonprofit news organizations who are like, oh, we really want to, right now our audience is news junkies, right? None of them have figured out how to get outside the people that just want news, right? Versus, well, why don't you cover, if you're trying to get a broader audience, cover stuff that impacts their lives. So whether it's on the culture front, if you're in the South, hire a hunting columnist who actually covers it the way like you would cover sport, meaning, hey, the season's about to start. Here are some of the best duck blinds to use this year. If you're trying to acquire new audiences, cover some of the stories and issues that they care about, not from their point of view, but the actual substance. And I think that's the disconnect and I think what you're describing, what John King is doing, that's a step in the direction of you're now talking to them, to allowing them to talk about the issues they care about, not the ones we're telling them they should care about.
Yeah.
Marjorie, can I make a suggestion?
What?
Why don't we take a break? And sort of a natural division between talking about Chuck's thoughts and then moving on to what's actually happening in this country. So why don't we do that right after we do a pledge thing?
All right. We're talking with Chuck, and apologize, Chuck, we're going to take a quick pledge break here. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Going to be right back with Chuck Todd in just very soon. Listening to 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
888-897-9424 is the number to call. The website where you can give securely is gbhnews.org. So we have a little enticement today, Jim, that I think is very timely, given what we're just talking about with Chuck. A Stand with the Facts water bottle. That means you won't need to fill up your plastic water bottles. You'll have a water bottle with a Stand with the Facts with the GBH logo, the NPR and the 89.7 GBH logos, which is pretty cool, saying Stand with the Facts, 20 ounces, stainless steel, insulated, not plastic, with a snap closure and what are you laughing at?
No, it's like a spokesmodel kind of thing. Okay,
well,
go ahead.
I'm big on the water. Yeah, bottles. You always be carrying around my bottles.
Here it is. By the way, I thought I can't. We're not on.
Oh my goodness! How'd you get
We're
one?
not streaming because I'm actually at work,
That's
unlike some other people.
I'm on Zoom.
It's very nice and it's got nice heft to it. But go ahead.
Oh, well, say one for me, please, Jim, if you
I
can.
will. See what I can
Anyway,
do for you.
I think standing with the facts is very important right now. We're going to tell you some whopper stories a little bit later on about how people are manipulating the facts, which is nothing new in this day and age, but it's kind of cool. And also, it supports us as a sustaining member, which is very important because it enables our budget people to know how much they have for the coming year, which could be a very trying year. So that's $10 a month, that's $10 a month. 888-979-9424 is the number. gbhnews.org. I wanted to be particularly smooth during that
No, it was
presentation
really smooth.
because Chuck was here, and I thought I'd impress him with my verbal skills. Okay, Jim, take it away.
Smooth.
Thank
the
you.
sustaining member deal is the great thing. I mean, I think it's good. We're both sustaining members, as we mentioned yesterday, because it's a little bit each month rather than one big lump of money. But if you want to do the one lump, you can do that kind of thing too. And it's also good, as Marjorie said, for the budgeteers here because they know what to expect every single month. More than 70% of our money comes from listener support. That's huge. More than 70% of money comes from listener support. And this is your opportunity to belly up to the bar, whatever expression you want to use. It's actually a good thing. I'm generally not into, you should give money because you want the gift or the enticement. This is a good one. But again, as I say almost every day, if you're giving money, give it because you like what you hear from our colleagues all day here. The number to call is 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the number. Again, 20-ounce white stainless steel insulated bottle with a snap closure. And it's got a handle, too, there, Marjorie. You can mention that next time. That's it, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. Stream at youtube.com/GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow. Maura Healey joins us in person for an hour of Ask the Governor at 1 o'clock. We continue our conversation with Chuck Todd.
So, Chuck Todd, there were protests around the country yesterday, mostly protesting Elon Musk and his infiltration of all these government agencies, making people very, very nervous. And the Democrats were out complaining, arguing whether they should, roll over or they should protest his every move. But clearly, the Democrats are in bad shape, and polls show that they are extremely unpopular. So, what do they do?
Well, I mean, look, I think that's I'm not going to sit here and say, for sure. I know why Schumer, but I can explain why Schumer and Jeffries are acting paralyzed. It's because their own members are divided on this.
Yeah.
Right? You've got those that are in swing states or swing districts who say, hey, AID's not popular. This stuff's, I don't want to jump on that. You have those that are in safer districts are going, what are we doing here? The base of the party's going to abandon us if we don't show some fight. Can somebody check the election results again? It was one of the 5 closest elections in the last 100 years, right? You know what I mean? This was not some landslide victory. So there is no mandate to do this, and there is an expectation by voters that they they didn't want this kind of mandate for him, or they would have voted that way. They would have been more Republican senators. There would have been more Republican House members. So I understand why the leaders are looking feckless, and I think some of it has to do with the old Chicken Little riddle, right? Sky is falling. They did this the first time, and it largely worked. The question is, did protesting loudly work or not work in the first term? Well, I'd argue it worked, right? It sent the message. It did make him have to pull back. It got Democrats to House in 2018. It created a check on him. So, I think it all depends on what you view, how you view things went the first term. If you think the fact that he won a second term is proof that everything that was done to resist him in the first term was a failure, I think that's underrating how things were handled in the first term a little bit. The fact of the matter is Elon Musk, I feel like I know how this story's going to end, and it's going to end in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And it's going to end with Elon Musk consistently, perhaps even being held personally liable for stealing, violating people's privacy, for essentially leaking access to things that shouldn't have been leaked. I mean, what they're doing is violating the law left and right here. And I don't think people fully appreciate. And again, he's sitting there going, I'm trying to kill the deep state. Well, this is all about, there are actual protections here, constitutional protections. That pesky Constitution is the one that provides the rules for the so-called deep state, buddy. So I think Musk should be the focus, because I think he is a walking constitutional crisis.
Well, not to mention the fact we saw Paul lead story on Drudge that those even Republicans who think he should have, quote, a lot of influence since right around election time is down from 47 to 29%, which is a pretty precipitous drop. While Marjorie is consumed, and I understand this, by the Democrats wandering in the wilderness, which you just addressed, I have to say I'm equally consumed by the incredible bended knee performance of 50 Republicans and everything. If you would, I've said to you before, and I say all the time, no one is a worse political prognosticator than I. I thought Hegseth had no chance, Gabbard had no chance, RFK Jr. had no chance. Maybe one of them would sneak through because Republicans, there are not enough Republicans to vote against 3 or 4 people. The fact that it is likely that every single one of these people except Gates is going to have a job, and that these people can live with themselves. What?
You think Gates is wondering if he shouldn't have
Exactly. Exactly.
Maybe he shouldn't
Sexual
have gone first.
predation doesn't even matter. I mean, these Republican senators. We don't. What do they give? I know they're not monolithic. What's that?
Here, hey, look. There's a simple thing that's happened here with both parties. The Democrats are scared of the interest groups. The Republican elected officials, this is in the elected official front, the Republican elected officials are afraid of their voters. This all goes, they're just afraid of their voters, and they're afraid of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who have hijacked the information ecosystem, particularly for conservative conversation. I mean, look at a guy like Bill Cassidy. Look at a guy like Tom Cotton. I mean, when Tom Cotton rolled over on Tulsi Gabbard, I actually think that's the crazy, Cassidy rolling over on Kennedy. The biggest disconnect in Washington is Kennedy. Kennedy is the most popular cabinet pick. Okay, Kennedy is right side up. We all think Kennedy's Looney Tunes, right? And has brain rot from a worm, steroids, heroin, you name it. But guess what? He's popular. It's not just popular among Republicans. He's popular. So I can't sit here and criticize, hey, the public wants him. Whatever you think of him, the public has spoken on him. But everybody else, the Cotton Tulsi Gabbard thing, Tom Cotton, but I also know how Arkansas voters react. And the fact is, if Tom Cotton looked like he was gone, somehow being accused by killing the Tulsi nomination, which was in his hands to live or die, he probably would have paid a political price in Arkansas. He probably would have. So they're all afraid of their actual voters, and they don't believe they have the ability to essentially out-persuade Trump and Musk, because essentially Trump and Musk have hijacked the American information ecosystem.
Yeah, can we get back to RFK Jr. for a second? You say he's the most popular of them. 50 plus at least one Republicans, maybe it's going to be J.D. Vance, the one, I don't know, are going to vote for a guy who's pro-choice in a party that is passionately anti-choice.
Trump is pro-choice. I think we know that.
Yeah,
now.
but at least he pretends that he's anti-abortion, whether he is or not. I'm sort of channeling Mike Pence here. That's okay for these guys?
Trump has changed the party into him. I mean, we've been saying this for a while, right? That he's changed the party into his image.
Right.
Well, this is him. This is his image, right? It's a kleptocracy. Well, Donald Trump's lived his life, basically scamming people out of money, and now he's setting up a situation where he's going to. That's what's happened. Everybody keeps trying to say, what's the tariffs about? It's just about him being at the center of every negotiation, and he either wants somebody to give him a political victory or a financial victory. That's all he ever looks for in these deals. But it's not. It's a different type of corruption. I always say about Trump, because some of it is about power, some of it is about glory, and some of it is about money.
Well, here's with Musk. I mean, Musk could have all these great details about his competitors now, too. Some of them who are very wealthy and powerful competitors. I mean, that's somebody might object to that.
This is exactly what Teddy Roosevelt fought against. This is exactly how I make myself feel better and how I make students these days feel better.
How do you make them feel better? We need that, Chuck.
What is it?
Is that we are literally watching what happened to America in the early 20th century. right? The speed of the Industrial Revolution created all this wealth in a handful of people.
Yep.
They got a bunch of power. They did try to translate it to political power. Some of them succeeded. A couple of the railroad barons, Leland Stanford, became governor of California, right? There were some that pulled it off. But for Henry Ford tried to be a senator. His anti-Semitic views cost him a Senate race in Michigan when he ran. And then Teddy Roosevelt, got religion on this himself. And became realized, hey, this is not what the founders wanted. You're not supposed to concentrate this much power and wealth into this same small group of people. So what gives me comfort is that, hey, there's a blueprint and a playbook on how to do this. It's just going to take the public souring enough that a few of these elected officials, I always said Teddy Roosevelt didn't do this on his own. Teddy Roosevelt saw a parade moving and he decided to jump in front of it. Right? And that's okay. There's a lot of great leaders who knew when to jump in front of a parade that was already going, right?
Yeah.
And he did. And I think that's, I do think Musk is going to be what brings Trump's approval rating down. This is his Afghanistan withdrawal. I think Elon, in the way the Afghanistan withdrawal sort of, put Biden in a hole that he could never get out of, I actually think this is what Musk is doing to Trump.
Hey,
well, you do think when you get the CIA, the FBI, the veterans, the hospitals, the doctors and nurses there being told they get a fork in the road, resign. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of those people. Many of them voted for Trump, right? It might
That's the
annoy
irony
them.
here. I mean, have you seen there was this guy who was trying to avoid being deported. He wore a T-shirt that said Latinos for Trump.
Yeah.
Thinking that it was going to keep him from being deported, and it didn't work. And by the way, I mean, I've got friends and family in the construction business. Construction's been almost ground to a halt in some of these places in the South. They can't find enough workers on any given day.
Yeah.
People have hid. They're scared. And I guess this is what, Trump would call that a victory. And It's like, okay, but how about your home build? How about all those home builder construction guys who all gave money to Trump, who are all wondering, I can't do my business anymore.
Yeah,
That's
see, I fear
I'm fascinated to watch.
I fear that they are so enamored of Trump that rather than Musk leading to the downfall of Trump, they'll take it all out on Musk. Musk will be the sacrificial lamb, and Trump will continue to be at 47% approval because nothing. I mean, it's the Fifth Avenue deal as far as I'm concerned.
I do agree that it won't be. I think Trump won't be over 45 starting on Memorial Day, and he'll never get over it again without some sort of, shocking, moment that makes people rally around our president.
Speaking of a number, we only have 30 seconds. What's the score on Sunday? I'm from Philadelphia. Don't forget that. Go ahead.
No, I'm my brain keeps saying Philly's the obvious pick.
Me too.
Philly's the obvious pick. And yet I get it. It's Mahomes, right? But I'm going to say 24-21. Eagles.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
okay.
You made my day there, Chuck.
Okay.
Hey, Chuck.
I know.
I love that.
Now you'll blame me if they lose. You'll be like, yeah, this is what happens when you get these jerks from, the national world that all, try to bandwagon.
Hey,
Chuck.
Chuck, we don't want to
prop bet is Travis Kelce proposing, and one assumes that only happens if they win.
That's a very good point.
Well, wait a second. Marjorie told me this morning that he said he was thrilled that Trump was coming to the game.
Trouble in
Don't
paradise.
you think that's the end?
He said he was honored. Travis said he was honored that Trump was coming, and as we know, Taylor is not a fan.
In fairness to some of these cultural icons, I think they're all trying really hard to separate politics from the hey, the president's coming to the Super Bowl. Isn't that great? Like, there was a time that all Americans care.
Yeah.
There was a time we knew how to separate that. But you know who doesn't allow us to do that? Donald Trump.
Well, in the words of Roger Goodell, choose love, Chuck Todd. We are thrilled you're with us, and
thank
we'll
you
talk
so
to you
much.
next week. Take care of yourself, Chuck.
Congrats on
Good
the
luck with
podcast.
everything.
We're thrilled about that, too.
Go to thechucktoddcast.com and sign up, and when it's in its new spot, you will know that.
We've been speaking, of course, with political analyst Chuck Todd, host of the Chuck Toddcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. After a quick break, we are opening the phone and text lines. A piece out of the Boston Globe posits that post-COVID remote life is making it harder for us to connect with one another figuratively and physically. in this kind of fractured moment, should we be doing more to get out in the world with our fellow human beings? Today's a good day. You can go out and snow shovel and talk to your neighbors, even if you don't like your neighbors. And do we want to see more of that interaction from our elected officials as well? Or is going high an easy way to get shot in the foot? Do we want to get along, or do we want to just keep distance from each other? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
Got it. Okay, it's a pledge. It's our winter pledge, whatever thing here. And a couple of things. One, we have fabulous guests. Chuck being a wonderful example. But in addition to normal people like Chuck and other people like Andrea Cabral later today, Ed Markey is joining us from the belly of the beast. Obviously, pretty important place, the United States Senate these days. States and cities are hopefully going to be the places where there's some resistance to the worst excesses of Trump. In that spirit, the governor joins us in person for an hour tomorrow at the library. Next Wednesday, the mayor of Boston joins us for an hour at the Boston Public Library. You get a lot of good things here. And by the way, we enjoy this and learn as much as we hope you do. And so if you have that same perspective, now is the time to show it with a contribution, whatever amount you can afford, at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. And if that amount is $10 a month or more, you get this great new water bottle thing, which Marjorie is now going to describe. Go ahead. I'll hold it up for you, Marjorie, to look at while you're doing it.
That's right. It is 20 ounces. That's good size. White, stainless steel, insulated, snap closure, Jim, and carrying handle, which is very exciting. And it says stand with the facts, which is very important at this particular moment.
You want to hear the snap closure? There it is. Go ahead. No, you do that with that Crank Radio, so I figured I should do that.
It's got the NPR and 89.7 logos on it. And most of our support, as Jim said, comes from small gifts from the generosity of listeners. And we were just talking about Elon Musk. Elon Musk has got NPR in the crosshairs now, too, which is very disturbing. So this is a very important time for standing with the facts, which has become harder and harder to do. And the ecosystems that people live in that are not fact-based are a big part of that problem. So anyway, if you like what you hear on GBH, we're on 15 hours a week. Our staff is on 24 hours a day. Not our staff, but the people, our colleagues that work with us are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a big enterprise, and we really appreciate the help that you can give this station to keep doing the quality journalism that you trust, and get out in the community and talk to people that are living lives where the politics is the personal. So the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Stand with the facts. White stainless steel insulated bottle is our gift of the day for $10 a month, and we very much appreciate whatever you guys can give.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie and Ed Markey this afternoon. The governor tomorrow, the mayor next Wednesday. A piece out in the Globe today by Janelle Nanos posits that just about 5 years out from the onset of COVID, Americans are more divided than ever. It's not just a political moment. It's Zoom meetings, working from home. It's hosting a Super Bowl party and not inviting fans from other teams. It's manifested everywhere. So our topic today is about how we deal with this division. That's you and we, ordinary people, on the personal level, and the leaders we elect. Democrats are still trying to figure out what resistance looks like under a second Trump term. And again, we'll talk more about that with Ed Markey at 12:30. For the sake of the country, would you like to see Democrats with this divide here coming to the table when it's appropriate, or accept that there is a divide and resist Trump at every single turn? Our number is 877-301-8970. How should we and they deal with the divide in America? There are two Americas right now. That's our question at 877-301-8970. Can I talk to the personal for a second?
Sure.
I had a meeting yesterday with a good friend of mine who is going to an event away with, I think, a dozen of her best friends. 4, 5, or 6, I can't remember, are Trump supporters. then 6, 7, or 8, whatever is left, are anti-Trumpers. And the deal they've made, we've heard a lot of callers say this through the years, they're not going to talk about it at all. That is their decision. So they are not engaging in this, I can't deal with these people anymore because they're my friends, I'm going to stay with them kind of thing. And in the Senate, there's another divide about how to deal with the divide. Is there a bunch of senators like Chris Murphy say, we're not voting for any, from Connecticut, I'm not voting for anything, including nominees or bills the Republicans want because democracy is being destroyed. And there are others who think when they're doing the right thing, they, the Republicans, they, Trump, we should be with them. We want to know what side, how you're handling the divide and how you want your elected officials to handle the divide at 877-301-8970.
Well, the depressing part is, as Chuck Todd was just saying, to see Republicans like Tom Cotton roll over because he thinks Tulsi Gabbard is not qualified to be the head of intelligence, but he voted for it anyway, and Democrats doing the same thing on their side. I was surprised. We mentioned this yesterday. We'll talk about it maybe with Ed Markey when he zooms in to see 22 Democrats vote for an election, or is it 24 Democrats, I think, voted for an election denier. The 2 senators from New Hampshire voted for Shaheen and Hassan, voted for an election denier. Adam Schiff from California, who headed up the January 6th committee. I don't know that was helpful because that seemed to be a very unprincipled vote. So it seems like if it's one thing to do something. I mean, there are certainly going to be things that I hope that President Trump does that you feel are in line with what you think we should be doing, and then that's fine. But what's not fine is throwing your principles out the window because you're worried about getting primaried. I mean, I'm not a particularly courageous person, but the thing about these United States senators, I don't think they're going to be poor if they lose their job. I think they'll be able to find another wonderful job, maybe even as a lobbyist, and be fine financially. So that's what I don't get about these senators, why they so publicly humiliate themselves. As Senator Whitehouse said, crawling on your hands and knees. How far and low can you crawl?
How are you dealing with the divide personally, and how do you want elected officials to deal with the divide? Lisa in Medford, you're first. Hi.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Marjorie. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
So a couple of things. One, I do have some friends that are Trump supporters, and I have to admit it is kind of hard. Every now and then I do have to shut down a conversation. But for the most part, I do try to maintain a balance. Mm-hmm. But what I find particularly hard in this moment is, where is the call to action? I am waiting. I'm ready. I want to go, and it's not in spite of my friends. It's not in spite of my family, but what are we supposed to do? I don't want to see Markey or anybody else kowtowing to Trump and Musk, and so with my personal relationships, it's easier to separate, but with my political affiliations and the things that I believe in, I want to take up the fight. I just don't know what that fight is right now.
Lisa, stick around till 12:30. I promise you, Marjorie or I will ask the very question you just asked of Senator Markey. What does he suggest that those of us who are unhappy about these goings-on should be doing? Lisa, that was a great call. Thank you very much for making it.
Now, here's an interesting text. I'm reminded of the old saying that if you can't beat them, join them. On a personal note, I am tired of beating my head against the wall. That's their perspective.
Yeah, well, I'll speak for Chris Murphy. His position is that it sort of normalizes Trump. That when you vote for the things that are, for example, every single senator, except I guess one wasn't there, voted for Marco Rubio, 99-0. On the merits, he probably, considering Trump was elected and elections have consequences, was a good choice coming from Trump.
But that's different because
Why is it different?
Because it was before Elon Musk began shutting down the FBI, the CIA.
It was after 1,500 people were pardoned, including those who tried to kill law enforcement officers.
That's right, but he's going to be the Secretary of State. I think I could see where that could happen then. They're talking now about
they vote for, if the vote on Rubio was today, should it be 99-0?
Well, I think that's the debate. Are Democrats going to vote for anybody that Trump puts forward until they make until there's some concessions from Donald Trump? And I think, that's what Murphy thinks. That he may be right about that. But I want to point out, Katherine from Chelmsford's perspective, Jim, she's a woman after your own heart.
What'd she say?
The only thing Democrats should vote for is ending daylight saving time.
Exactly. No, not ending. The opposite. Making it year round, which is Ed Markey's baby, by the way. We got to take a break, Marjorie.
I think that's what she
See
means.
that clock?
She means doesn't want it to go back to what it was. When you get the darkness of the afternoon.
Now,
That's your big
right
crusade,
now.
isn't it, Jim?
It's one of my many crusades.
Okay, we're talking about your personal relationships and your political relationships. Are we in need of being more bridge making as opposed to bridge burning up? You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
That is a great point that our colleague just made. You listen to us. Well, you listen to us for free.
Oh.
And you don't have to have extensive commercials every hour, and that's the difference between public radio and commercial radio. Commercial radio depends on sponsorships. They have to have ads from car companies or tire companies or whatever it is that run for a very, very long time. We're supported mainly by listeners. We are more than 70% of our budget, as I've said a million times, comes from listener support. There are big donors that give lots of money, big philanthropic groups and stuff, but it's mostly small gifts, $10 or $15 a month. That's where our money comes, and that's why we're able to put on radio here without having those endless commercials for whatever it is, cars or tires, etc., or mail.
No. We're not doing virility bill discussion again,
which was Jim's specialty when he worked in commercial radio. And I tell you, he's a real man today. We're all very grateful. So, and I have to say, I get a lot of mattresses. I got a lot of mattresses when I was doing commercial radio because I did ads for mattress company, and I tell you, I get a good night's sleep every single night. Go from bed to bed to bed, Jim. But anyway, today we have a great enticement. It's a 20-ounce white stainless steel insulated bottle, snap closure. You don't want to be drinking water bottles anymore. They're bad for the environment, and you're going to get those microplastics. Well, you don't get them from stainless steel.
What's the number they have to call to make a donation again?
888. Were you trying to shut me up here?
No, you haven't given the
on
number.
Too long?
It's 1 minute and 40 seconds
okay.
so far.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I'll say it again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Now, I'm going to read a general comment from a donor because Marjorie doesn't like it when I read the ones about us. Freddie and Needham, more than ever, we need GBH. Well, I'm going to read some of the ones she doesn't like. This is Martha and Acushnet. Many programs are excellent, but Jim and Marjorie are unquestionably superb. And fun, exactly. Catherine in Waltham.
I love Acushnet.
BPR interviews with local elected officials and candidates who are public service make me a better informed citizen of the Commonwealth. And, this is what Jack, who was one of the people running this whole pledge thing, forwarded a comment we didn't get yesterday, Margie. You'll love this. Other than watching the right whales migrating in Cape Cod Bay, there is nothing better than listening to Margie and Jim and all their fine guests. You guys are fabulous.
That's very nice.
And we hope a lot of you will emulate your fellow listeners by right now going to 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie. And we're talking about division. Janelle Nanos in her piece in the Globe says it's deeper than ever. I think we agree it is deeper than ever in politics and in our lives. How are you dealing with it in your personal life, and how do you want elected officials to deal with it? Should they work together when it makes sense, or should the opposition party, in this case the Democrats, just say no to everything so that nothing that Donald Trump does is normalized? Irene in Ipswich, you're first on Boston Public Radio. Hey there.
Hi. Well, I'm starting to feel like a frequent caller.
Well, we're glad you are. What's up?
Well, I'm in my early 70s, and they always say history repeats itself. And I was, I was on the cusp of the Vietnam War. I was, actively involved through my job at UMass Amherst in many political rallies and whatnot. And I just feel like today, we didn't have the technology that we have today. I just can't understand why people can't start building some sort of bridges between those of us who agree that, we're all human beings and there's right and there's wrong, and get rid of all this corruption. Maybe we need a new party. We need somebody to step forward and organize it. And we will make this change again because we have in the past.
Okay, that's a positive attitude. We need positivity. Irene, thanks for bringing it. We appreciate it.
I think that the technology, though, is a big part of this. And when you think of Musk himself, he owns X. It used to be Twitter. He can tweet something, put it out on X.
He only has 200 million followers, though.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people see him as someone they'd like to emulate. He's called a genius, and I suppose he is a genius in many ways. But I don't see him as a guy with a lot of empathy. And that's a problem, considering what he's doing at the moment.
John in Westford, welcome to the show. Good to talk to you, John. What's up?
All right, nice to talk with you. I think we all have to force ourselves out of our comfort zone and just start listening. It's like me.
You do it. Exactly. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
And sometimes it's painful, but especially for Jim. Not you, Marjorie.
Not me. Oh, thank you, John.
Go ahead, John.
And our social media, our algorithms. If you look at mine, you think I'm schizophrenic. You gotta look at both sides and realize that we're using politics as an identity, like it's who we are. So when you attack somebody else's or confront somebody on their political beliefs, it becomes an ad hominem attack.
Yeah.
It becomes a personal thing, and it's not. We're all people. And we all have a lot more in common than we know.
Hey, John, before you go away, and you, by the way, you're an excellent caller, and we're really glad you listen to the show. How about when it is personal? How about when a parent of an LGBTQ kid calls in, and I'm sure you've heard them, and worries about what's going to happen to them under an administration that seems to have no empathy for how some of the most vulnerable people in our society. What do you do? And don't debate the merits with me. Answer, if you would, the question about what do you do when it is really deeply personal, the policy?
Well, that's where I think it comes back to social media. I mean, if you really look, and I know you're not going to believe me, but like Mar-a-Lago has a same-sex marriage gala where Trump is hosting, and Donald Trump's son actually was the justice of the peace or whatever at a gay friend's wedding. And it's not necessarily against the argument to me isn't against people that want to transition or have gender affirming intervention.
Yeah. What is it?
It's the on the pre-puberty or mid-puberty, it's more of a medical issue.
I hear you, but so then let it be between the doctor and the family. John, thank you as always, and we do appreciate your listening and calling. 877-301-8970.
And I think Democrats were hurt a lot by the whole Republican emphasis on trans stuff over and over again in sports. And I think it's
he signed the executive order yesterday.
He did sign the executive order. But I think it's not unreasonable for someone who's got a kid playing sports, a girl playing sports. I don't think you can necessarily say they hate trans people because they're worried about their daughter in that situation.
But how many times Kamala Harris ever mentioned that in the campaign?
She
I would
never
say none,
did.
for
She
example.
never did.
It was
But
the brilliance of the Trump people preying on the most vulnerable people in our society.
But it's also some people in the progressive movements jumped on your throat and say you're a horrible person. How can you possibly say that? Look what happened to Seth Moulton. He said it very inarticulately, I will say that. But look what happened to Seth Moulton. He was shouted down in his meetings.
Let's go to Jennifer in Little Compton, one of Marjorie's favorite places. You have 40 seconds, Jennifer. Thanks for the call.
Okay, well, I am 72 years old, and I've decided to run for public office in the town of Little Compton.
Excellent.
Because I'm actually running for beach commission because it's an environmental issue.
Oh, I like that.
So sort of starting at the bottom, but I just wanted to let you know that even at my age, there's stuff you can do.
By the way, you're making it sound like you're 100. And let me, Jennifer, thank you for the call. And let me say, there's no obligation when someone calls the show to tell us how old they are. We don't care if you're 100 or if you're 22 or 12. We're glad you called, and good luck in your race there. Good luck in your race.
Well, I think in her case, she wanted to say she hadn't done it before, and now she was going to do it in her senior citizen years.
Yeah, there's a guy who just ran for president again at 78, and another one ran at 81.
I know. I tell he's got a lot of vim and vigor. I got to give him that. Maybe we should all be eating more cheeseburgers and French fries, Jim.
I do eat more cheeseburgers and French fries. So I guess I'm on my way to eternal health. We got to take a break, Marjorie.
Okay, we're taking a break. Okay, right after the noon news, we're going to be talking with Andrea Cabral, former sheriff of Suffolk County, and we're going to talk to her about whether ICE is gaming Google to make it seem like immigration raids that happened 3, 4, 10 or more years ago are happening now under Donald Trump. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News.
It is the winter membership drive on GBH. Please take just a few minutes to invest in your future GBH listening. As a nonprofit public service, we count on listener contributions for over 70% of our income. So your gift right now is so important. You don't have to give a lot to make a difference, just $50 or $100 or maybe $10 or $15 per month. It really matters. So please give online now at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Zach Finn.
And to stay on track right now, we need 14 more people to give in the next 7 minutes. GBH and NPR play a vital role in delivering trustworthy news that you can rely on. So by giving right now, you help ensure that quality journalism prevails over fake news. So please make your contribution now. We're looking for 14 more in the next 7 minutes. gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Support GBH, and we can say thank you with our Stand with the Facts water bottle. The white stainless steel bottle is insulated. It features the statement "Stand with the Facts" along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. This offer is only available today until 7 o'clock this evening. You listen to NPR and GBH, you are standing with the facts. So sign up as a sustaining member. That's $10 per month. You can also give $120 all at once, but that deadline again is coming up at 7 o'clock tonight. You're listening right now, though. Support your Boston Public Radio listening. Stand with the Facts and ask for the Stand with the Facts water bottle as our thanks. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And every single day you hear the difference on GBH. The in-depth and unbiased news, the thoughtful and civil conversations, the stories told in a way that only GBH can tell them. It truly is news that matters. So if you've never given before, right now is the time to invest in GBH. It's your support that ensures we can cover the issues, chase down those facts, and keep you up to date each and every day. So choose a monthly amount. Maybe it's $5, maybe it's $10 a month, and become a new sustaining member of GBH. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
Giving takes just a few minutes of your time and a few dollars on your credit card. And since we make that process quick and easy, those few minutes right now will become hundreds of hours of news and entertainment from Morning Edition, Boston Public Radio, Wait, Don't Tell Me, and so many more programs that you'll love here. You can sign up as a sustaining member or make that a one-time gift. Either way, it makes a huge difference. 888-897-9424 or make your gift online at gbhnews.org.
And become a sustaining member of GBH today at $10 a month, and we're going to send you the Stand with the Facts water bottle. The fight against misinformation really is so important. So don't just stand with the facts. Hydrate with the facts. 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org.
Thank you so much. If you've made your gift of support, helping us chip away at our goal, these goals are so important to stay on track for the overall goal of this membership drive. We're down to just 9 more people we're looking to hear from. 9 more people in just under 5 minutes. We can do it. We need to hear from you. This is how it works. It's call by call, contribution by contribution, coming together to support all your listening here on GBH. 888-897-9424 or make your gift online. Help us reach this goal at gbhnews.org.
And it really is quite expensive for NPR to produce all the news, magazines, and your favorite entertainment programs. And where does NPR get that money? It's from stations like GBH. Now, it works this way. You give money to GBH, and we turn around and pay NPR to keep you in news and entertainment. Now, we don't need you to foot the entire bill, just what it's worth to you. 888-897-9424. You can go online, gbhnews.org.
Thank you so much to Stacy in Quincy who made a contribution. We also heard from a friend in New Bedford who says, Jim and Marjorie help me get through the day, and these days I need them more than ever before. Thank you so much. We also heard from Roger in Melrose and a friend in North Providence, Rhode Island, coming together. That is, again, how it works. It's call by call, contribution by contribution, helping us reach this goal here. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And that goal right now is 6 contributions in about those next 4 minutes. We need the financial support of everyone who relies on GBH to keep this important service on the air and available to all. GBH has been your source of credible news, and your contribution right now is going to help keep it that way. So listener contributions empower us to investigate, verify, and report the truth. So please give now. Help us meet that goal. 6 contributions in these next 4 minutes. gbhnews.org or 888-897-9424.
And don't forget to ask for the Stand with the Facts water bottle as our thanks for your contribution. You're supporting all your listening here on GBH, but we want to say thank you. And again, this is a very special way we'd love to say thanks, which this Stand with the Facts water bottle features the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos and Stand with the Facts. You can check out an image of what it looks like when you make your gift online. That's at gbhnews.org, or ask for it when you make that contribution by phone. That's 888-897-9424.
You listen to GBH throughout the year, so why not spread your membership out the same way by signing up as a sustaining member? You make a recurring monthly contribution from your bank account or credit card, so your contribution keeps giving all year long, and it only takes 2 minutes to set up. How easy is that? 888-897-9424. You can go online to gbhnews.org.
Oh, this is fantastic. We are down to just 4 more people we're looking to hear from. 4 more people to reach this goal. We got a couple minutes left to go in this hour. If you are a fan of Jim and Marjorie and Boston Public Radio, support your listening. If you have yet to do so, now is the perfect time to call 888-897-9424. Your contribution in any amount makes a huge difference here, and you'll be helping us hit this goal here. Just 4 more people to hear from in these next couple minutes. 888-897-9424, or make that gift online at gbhnews.org.
And support GBH today at $10 a month. We're going to thank you with the Stand with the Facts water bottle. It's a white stainless steel bottle, insulated, features the statement Stand with the Facts, along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. This offer is only available till 7 o'clock, so you listen to NPR and GBH and you stand with the facts. Get that call started now, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Thank you so much to a friend in Littleton who just made a contribution, and to Mira in West Newbury, getting us that much closer to hitting our goal. We have just 2 more people to hear from in these last couple minutes to wrap up this hour. Make your call, make their contribution right now. Ask for that water bottle as our thanks. 888-897-9424, or online at gbhnews.org.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Bernadine Sung Megason with Compass Real Estate, serving buyers and sellers throughout Greater Boston. Learn more at homesbybernadine.com. And Brown University Pre-College Programs, where high school students can prepare for college learning, experience college life, and make new friends. Over 300 course offerings available. precollege.brown.edu.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy. A cop's conviction for child rape was tossed by a Bristol County judge, even though the issues cited had never been raised by either the cop's lawyer or the judge herself before. Was justice done? Former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral, joins us.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then Senator Ed Markey zooms in to talk about what the Democrats can and are doing to resist government dismantling efforts by Donald Trump and Elon Musk. He'll also talk about the Right To Contraception Act he's working on with our local representative, Katherine Clark. It's all next. Hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. There are just a few hours remaining for federal workers to decide whether to take the Trump administration's offer to resign from their jobs now and keep their pay and benefits through September 30th, despite agencies only being funded through mid-March. As NPR's Andrea Shue reports, a federal court in Boston is weighing a request for a stay.
U.S. District Judge George O'Toole, who's a Clinton appointee, will preside over a hearing scheduled for 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The lawsuit was brought by unions representing more than 800,000 civil servants. It alleges that the deferred resignation offer is arbitrary and capricious, as well as unlawful. The unions argue that the offer fails to consider possible adverse consequences to the government's ability to function and is pretext for removing and replacing workers on an ideological basis. The offer went out to more than 2 million civilian employees of the federal government, including this week to members of the National Security Agency and the CIA. Andrea Hsu, NPR News.
Employees were given to just before midnight to decide. While jobs are top of mind for many civil servants, and governments released new numbers on the state of the nation's labor market. Here's NPR's Scott Horsley.
U.S. workers got a little more productive in the final months of 2024, turning out 1.2% more goods and services with every hour of work. That's important because when workers are more productive, they can earn higher wages without putting upward pressure on prices. New applications for unemployment benefits inched up last week as 219,000 people applied for jobless aid. We'll get a more complete snapshot of the job market tomorrow when the Labor Department reports on employment gains for the month of January. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents have arrested more than 8,000 people in the first 2 weeks of the Trump administration. They include people without a criminal record. Here's NPR's Sergio Martinez Beltran.
One of them is 18-year-old Carlos. He's from Venezuela but came to the U.S. in November legally through a Biden-era program. He was arrested by federal immigration agents while at his home in Texas last week. That's Juan, Carlos's dad. He says his son is a young man who is just opening his eyes to the world. NPR could not find any criminal record for Carlos in Texas, the only state he's lived in. We are using only first names because the family worries speaking out will jeopardize Carlos's case. Juan is asking President Trump for mercy for his son. Sergio Martinez Beltran, NPR News, Cedar Park, Texas.
U.S. stocks are mixed this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 126 points at 44,742. The S&P's up 9 points, and the Nasdaq has picked up 15 points. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Legacy admissions are quickly going out of fashion at U.S. colleges. That's according to new analysis out this week from the nonprofit Education Reform Now. From our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports that schools are dropping the practice at a rapid pace thanks to a mix of public pressure and federal policy changes.
Since 2015, more than half the colleges that gave an admissions edge to alumni family members have stopped doing so. That's about 450 schools in total. 90 colleges have dropped the practice in the past 2 years, amid broader changes to admissions policies following the 2023 Supreme Court ruling that limited the consideration of race in admissions. Now it's mostly older, wealthy, and highly selective schools here in the Northeast, like Harvard and Yale, that are sticking with legacy admissions. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News, 89.7.
National Weather Service tells us that a nasty and much bigger snowstorm than we're seeing today could be on the way just in time for your Super Bowl party. Today's snow will turn to freezing rain if it hasn't yet already, and then after a brief respite tomorrow, we could be looking at a very significant snowstorm on Saturday night. Forecasters say Greater Boston could see the biggest snowstorm in more than 3 years, with upwards of 8 inches of snow possible. They also say the snow should be wrapped up by late Sunday morning, allowing plenty of time for shoveling ahead of those Super Bowl parties on Sunday night. Good time to fire up the grill and celebrate the game with a snowbarbecue. 30 degrees in Boston. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, working to shorten the gap between cancer research and cancer care. Learn more about Dana-Farber's Momentum of Discovery at danafarber.org/everywhere.
He's Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are back at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. Governor Maura Healey will join us for another session of Ask the Governor between 1 and 2. Next Wednesday, she switched from Tuesday, Mayor Michelle Wu joins us for another edition of Ask the Mayor. That's going to be Wednesday, also at the Boston Public Library. Ed Markey Zooms in to talk to us in about a half an hour. Hello again, Jim.
Hey there, Marjorie. Here now via Zoom is former Suffolk County Sheriff, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral. She joins us weekly. Hello there, Andrea.
Hello there, Jim. Hello there, Marjorie.
Hey.
Hello, Andrea Cabral. So tell us about this Supreme Court case, which would make the government create religious schools.
Well, it's actually 2 cases in 2 different jurisdictions. But if people remember when Betsy DeVos in Trump's first term as president was his Secretary of Education. She was, pushing her own agenda and his agenda on charter schools, which are public schools, but charter schools essentially to replace what we commonly think of as public schools and giving them all of the benefits of that. And she began the process essentially of dismantling the Secretariat Department of Education. Wasn't anywhere near as successful as I think Trump intends to be in his second term. But that's sort of where this started. So there are these two cases, Oklahoma Statewide Charter School Board versus Drummond and the St. Isidore of Seville Catholic Virtual School versus Drummond. Now, the Supreme Court, the precedent is well established and reiterated as recently as 2022 in Carson versus Macon, that states, first of all, don't need to subsidize private education, and states can provide strictly secular education in public schools. So the separation between church and state is, as I say, well established. It's in the Establishment Clause. No governmental entity nor government itself establishes a specific religion. And, using taxpayer money to fund religious schools would be part of that, would be endorsement of a particular religion, one particular religion or several over others. So essentially, these two cases have made their way up to the Supreme Court, and people should take care to recognize that the forces behind these kinds of cases, and it's not just the separation between church and state, it's everything. It's a very well-funded effort. They've been flooding the zone with cases so that by the time there are enough of them to get to the Supreme Court can cherry pick the cases with the best facts so that they can take that case and arrive at the outcome they want. So essentially what they're saying is there's a planned charter school in Oklahoma that would be run by two Catholic dioceses. They actually say that St. Isidore's will, quote, derive its original characteristics and its structure as a genuine instrument of the church and will participate in the evangelizing mission of the church. Couldn't be clearer that this is clearly religion-based, right? State Supreme Court in Oklahoma said it is unlawful for the state to fund a religious public school. And the state court used its own long-standing precedent and also the Supreme Court precedent and the Oklahoma Constitution, which forbids the use of public money for the benefit support of any sect, church, denomination, or system of religion. But if the Supreme Court, if SCOTUS takes this case, and it will take this case and it'll take the other, it gets to rule on whether or not states have to fund religious education in some contexts. It's already sort of said that there are some contexts in which this can be funded. This would be a huge extension of that into private education generally and religious religious education generally and religious charter schools specifically. Charter schools are public schools. They are all funded with public money. So there would be no question that if they extended this would be the funding of religious schools with taxpayer money. The clearest and most brazen, if they find this, the clearest and most brazen overturning of precedent and violation of the Establishment Clause to date.
We don't have to worry, though, Marjorie, because Chief Justice Roberts will protect the Constitution, right? Okay.
Okay,
right,
I used
not.
to think that. I was disabused many, many months ago.
Andrea, moving on here, I don't know how to feel about this. This mass deportation thing was absolutely frightening. And on one hand, the fact that the numbers suggest that it's not happening, despite the macho talk of Tom Homan, the border czar, and Donald Trump, is a good thing. Well, the bottom line is they're cooking the books. They're saying that
this is incredible.
They're doing much more mass deportation than they actually are. Why don't you fill in the blanks? Because I'm having no ability to introduce this topic intelligently. So why don't you try?
There are two stories I'll point people to. One is in the Globe by Julia McDonald Nieto Del Rio and Yo Yoon, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, Young. And theirs is about, the Globe story is about these large numbers of arrests that ICE has been posting, these data numbers. I would also suggest that people look at The Guardian. I would suggest that people look at The Guardian.
This is a great story.
All of their reporting, they've made it very clear from the beginning, once Trump had won this election, that they were going to be true to their principles and they were going to report the truth without fear or favor. And that's exactly what they do every single day. But the Guardian story talks about how ICE is cooking the books to post this data. So in addition to the literally thousands of pages that have been removed from the federal websites of nearly every single agency, that's health data, education data, stuff for every secretariat, they've simply taken it down. ICE every day is posting what are supposed to be these numbers of how many arrests they make. And the way that they're cooking the books is they're basically gaming Google's system, so that when you go to Google, what you'll see are at least one, usually more than one, press releases from ICE talking about deportations in Colorado, deportations in a variety of other states, Idaho,
New Orleans.
Yes, all these places that people have been rounded up and supposedly they've been arrested and there are deportation actions. The problem is that these interdictions happened under the Biden administration. They are literally years old. All ICE has done is updated simply by clicking on the press release page, updated it to January of 2025, and they're posting it like it's real news. What they can count on is the fact that people don't look more deeply than what they just see posted, and they think that these are all things that ICE is doing right now. It's a lie, like every other aspect of every other part of the Trump administration. And it's a PR blitz to make people think that he's doing the thing he promised
when he's not.
Because he can't, because he simply doesn't have the resources to do it. So lying to people and telling them that you're doing it in 2025 in an era of disinformation and misinformation is just as good as doing it if they continue to believe that you're actually telling them the truth.
This is just like the tariffs, where I'm getting all these emails today. I just got one about wind farms killing whales. That's not true. Wind farms do not kill whales. Fishing lines and boat collisions kill whales. But people still believe that because that's a big thing Trump puts out, that the wind farms are killing the whales. But this is so clever for him in the same way as the tariffs will. Because you found out, he said, we got all these concessions from Mexico, but then you found out that actually the Mexican government has sent troops at least twice before. They're sending in troops the third time now under Trump. They did it under Biden. They did it before that. So he didn't really get anything. It was just smoke and mirrors. But people believe it.
Well, can I add one thing to this? In addition to the sleight of hand, for lack of a better expression, that The Guardian reports on, that Andrea was just describing, the Globe piece that Andrea mentioned, they go on to say that data, which is accurate, like some of the arrest numbers, they don't tell you what's under the arrest numbers, meaning where did they continue to be detained, were they deported? And in fact, the Globe story cites NBC News reporting that some migrants arrested by ICE under the Trump administration's mass deportation campaign have already been released in the United States, which is exactly what he trashed Biden, Obama, and everybody else for. But the good news is that there's not a mass deportation.
There's not.
The bad news, this is what I was trying to say in the beginning, and the bad news is that there's a little sleight of hand in terms of the reporting.
The bad news is that some of the...
And the harm what?
The fear.
The harm that flows to all of undocumented immigrants, because the messaging continues to be the same. We're looking for you. We're out to get you. People... undocumented people don't know that they're not doing this at the scale that they said that they were going to do it. And it merely intimidates people, keeps people from reporting crimes against themselves, crimes they witness against
going to the
others.
doctor, everything, sending their kid to school. Yeah, I agree.
And how many times have you heard that the people that have been arrested are people that came to the country illegally without criminal records? We just heard it at the top of the news. Right? The guy that was arrested had no criminal. These are not the rapists and the murderers. It's incredible. It's like a PR scam. I mean, I don't know if we're going to.
That's what he did his whole life, his entire life. it was him.
Remember the story
in the newspaper about his sexual prowess, about who he was dating. The whole what's his name? The guy whose name was Barron.
John Barron.
Trying to be that guy, John Barron, and call and drop these hot tips. That's what he has learned. People really do need to understand, no matter how much they'd like to believe otherwise, he is not part of a system of governance. None of the people who are doing all of this with him are parts of a system of governance. And all of the Republicans who swore an oath to do the exact opposite of what they're doing now are no longer in Congress part of a system of governance. He is a sovereign. He believes himself to be a sovereign, and he is out to dismantle everything that stands in the way of his absolute power. And he's getting a lot of help. So people should understand, you shouldn't believe anything that comes out of the White House. You just cannot. If you didn't learn that in his first 4 years, maybe you're never going to get it in his second 4 years. But none of this is believable or true, and it's all manipulation.
Yeah, I can't
take a
believe
break,
how many
Marjorie.
People are sending me texts about the windmills and the whales. There's no evidence, as far as I know, about the windmills killing any whales, but that one just won't go away. Okay, you're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming on youtube.com/GBH News. Quick pledge break, and then right back with more of Andrea Cabral.
If you listen to Boston Public Radio 3 hours a day, that's 15 hours a week, 60 hours a month, and 720 hours a year. Maybe it's time you pitched in. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
A lot of you are pitching. Oh, go ahead, Marjorie. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to repeat the number again, 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Yeah, a lot of people are pitching in, and you've got the names of the people that have said nice things, Jim.
I do, and Marjorie doesn't like it when I read them about us. I love it.
That's
when
why
I
I'd asked you to read them.
About us. Let me see if I can find some that I haven't read before. Here's a good one. Here's Julie from Deerfield. We love Marjorie and Jim, along with their guests, the mayor, Governor John King, the two Andreas, Juliette Kayyem, Cy Montgomery, Nancy Gertner, a ton of other guests. Thanks for the great reporting and so on. It makes us feel really good. And by the way, the great things you say about GBH radio in general also make our colleagues who work like dogs feel really good. Those who are on the air and those who make the shows possible are wonderful teams on all these shows. So here's your opportunity to show that you care by giving whatever you can at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. If you can afford and are interested, for $10 a month or more, if you choose, you can get this Stand With the Facts NPR GBH 89.7. What do you call? What's this thing called? Water bottle. And it's, what is it? What is it made out of again? What's the thing you're good at?
Stainless steel. We're not supposed to be drinking out of plastic water bottles bad for the environment.
Okay,
also supposed to increase the amount of plastic that we have inside us, which is really disgusting to think about.
Okay, fine. Since I am really jealous when Marjorie does sound effects during her presentation during pledge, I am both going to unsnap and snap the closure on the water bottle, the quieter bay.
Wow.
There it goes. Wow. You won't find a snap like that in many water bottles, I should say. And if you're looking for that kind of snack, or a crackle and pop, too, at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. You know, we can't say it more times. More than 70% of our budget comes from people like you, listener support. So please do it. And by the way, if you can afford it, there really is, I want to say this nicely, if you can afford it, there's no excuse not to make a contribution of some amount to show you care about and value the work that we and all of our wonderful colleagues do. The number is 888-897-9424. gbhnews.org is the what you call it. And by the way, it only takes it really is, it's fast. Now, let me read one or two.
That's because operators are standing by, Jim.
Do you know that for a fact that they're standing by?
Well, I figure somebody's answering the phone.
Somebody must be standing by. That is correct. Whoever it is, they are standing by. I'm not going to read any more self-praise. Well, it's not self-praise since we didn't do it. I just, one more time, will unclick. Excuse me. There you go. And click. What do you think of that? Does that do anything for you or not?
I think it's odd, Jim, that you're doing that.
Well, it's no odder than when you make sound effects during pledge.
Here's the number.
What is it?
I'm cranking the Eton Crank Radio.
Well, we're not doing the Eton Crank Radio today, are we?
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Senator Ed Markey joins us in about 10 minutes to talk about what's happening in Washington. There's not enough time for it. The governor tomorrow for an hour at 1 and the mayor next Wednesday for an hour at 11. We're continuing our discussion with Andrea Cabral.
So, Andrea, explain as well this very confusing case about a rape case involving two victims and the verdict, the jury verdict, unanimous jury verdict being overturned.
Against a cop, by the way.
Against a cop, yes. Cop. Thank you, Jim. I should have said that.
Yeah, so former Dartmouth police officer Sean Souza was convicted after a jury trial of several counts of rape of a child and indecent assault and battery. It involved his trial involved two different victims. So initially, when he was initially charged, the cases were not joined. The case against one victim went forward. It ended in a mistrial. The judge who sat on that case when the trial got rescheduled ruled on a motion by the prosecution to try both cases together. That judge's name was McGuire. So when the cases went forward the second time, when the original case went forward the second time, it was joined with another case involving Souza. And it's fairly safe to assume, although I haven't seen the paperwork, that there were enough similarity between the two cases in terms of Souza's behavior that it was considered to be sort of a pattern of behavior, and that's why the cases were joined. In any event, the two cases went forward. He was convicted after a jury trial. The jury apparently deliberated for something like 8 hours. He was sentenced to, I think, 8 to 10 or 8 to 11 years, 8 to 10 years. There was no objection, either pre-trial or in the post-trial motion after conviction by his defense counsel to set aside the verdict. At no time was it raised by either the judge or by his defense counsel that there was some insurmountable prejudice to him by virtue of joining these two cases together. Additionally, one of the victims had supporters in the courtroom, 3 supporters. They were members of a group called Bikers Against Child Abuse, but they didn't wear any of their biker regalia. They just wore regular street clothes. They never interfered in any way with the trial or did anything to unduly prejudice the jury. Certainly that was never an issue that was raised by the defense. And it was done in part because Souza had so many supporters in the courtroom that they were trying to mitigate the intimidation of the victim. In any event, with none of this having been raised and with the conviction in the regular appellate process, which is where you would usually deal with an issue of, the failure to sever cases. The judge in this case, a judge by the name of Sullivan, ruled on a post-trial motion by the defense raising these issues for the first time, set aside the conviction, and released him on $10,000 cash bail.
Yeah.
Can I add a couple facts to this thing? It's Suzanne Sullivan is the judge's name. In addition to the fact that neither the judge during the trial, as Andrea said, nor the lawyers for the cop ever raised these issues during trial. This is first of all, one of the victims / survivors, it happened to her when she was 6 to 8 years old.
Yeah.
The other victim survivor when she was 15 years old. And the more incredible part of this story is that when the judge ruled on the motion to throw out the conviction and free the guy, and by the way, it doesn't mean it won't be another trial, but in terms of these results, there was no hearing. According to the prosecutor in Bristol County, there was no opportunity for the prosecutor who had successfully prosecuted this cop and gotten a unanimous jury decision. There was no opportunity for him to object to the release of this convicted child rapist. So I
was wrong. Souza got 10 to 15 years in state prison.
I mean, it's just, it's an unbelievable story, and I'm hoping that...
And it's very unusual. I mean, I was trying to rack my brain to think if I'd ever known of a judge doing something like this. Judges always have the obligation to do what they think is the right thing in the interest of justice. But this is highly, highly unusual, particularly, as you point out, Jim, without the ability of the prosecution to even attend and make their case at a hearing. It's almost like it's out of the clear blue sky on issues that have yet to be raised. The general rule is issues not asserted at the appropriate time are waived.
Yeah.
Are waived, except in very specific circumstances, waived for all time. So this is, DA Quinn is very, very upset about this, and it seems, at least from everything that I've read thus far, justifiably so.
One last thing on this no hearing, and again, this is based, I wasn't there, Andrea wasn't there, Marjorie wasn't there, it's based on representation, which I'm assuming is honest, by the DA, saying we had no opportunity to object to this at a hearing. Can you give me one example in all your years in law enforcement where on something of this, where the consequences are this important, where the other side was not granted an opportunity at a hearing to object?
No, I can't think of a single one. And the other thing I would say is, if there was something in this ruling that the DA's office somehow missed, if Judge Sullivan had hit upon this, very compelling factual or legal argument, and it was their fault for not catching it, I can't imagine that an elected DA would be nearly as strident in lambasting this decision as DA Quinn is being. And, so that's also one of the signs that even, neither of us has been there. We haven't read all of the paperwork, but you can sort of read in the tea leaves by virtue of the DA's response and the way it has been I've read three or four stories on this, and the basic facts are laid out in exactly the same way by a variety of different reporters. So, as I said, I think they can't wait to get this in front of an appellate judge or appellate court.
You know what? We're out of time. What I would like to add to next week's agenda when you're here is the whole notion that judges, even in a controversial decision like this, which upsets much of the public, will not go before the public, saying they're not allowed to go before the public in some cases to explain the rationale for their decision. Let's talk about that next week. Curious to know where you are. Andrea, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrea. Great to talk to you. We've been speaking with former Suffolk County Sheriff, former Massachusetts Secretary of Public Safety, Andrea Cabral, who joins us weekly. After a quick break, we're going to be talking with Senator Ed Markey. He's going to zoom in and tell us what are the Democrats going to do now. Are they going to fight? Are they going to roll over? Are they going to do a little bit of both? You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
So one of our texters, Jim, really likes it when you open and close the water bottle. He says it's almost as good as 2 Q-tips in the ear.
That's what he said. The sound effect matters when you're doing pledge drive, trust me.
Are a big deal. But as we always say, we are very, very grateful to people that listen to us. We're very, very grateful to people that take the time to support us. More than 70% of our budget comes from listener support and from the small contributions, the $10 a month, $5 a month, $15 a month. There's some government concern about the government continuing to support us under Elon Musk, as you may have heard about. So it's a fraught time, needless to say. But if you like what you hear, we're on 15 hours a week. We have colleagues that put on 24 hours, 7 days a week of programming, and that's a big enterprise to keep going. So we hope if you like what you hear, if you like the fact-based journalism, that you will support what we do. And we have a Stand with the Facts water bottle now to offer for those people who are interested in giving us $10 a month. I think that they can buy it for $120 all at once, but $10 a month is obviously easier on your wallet. And it's white. Jim is opening and closing it, making that nice little satisfying sound. Stainless steel, not plastic, insulated, and it has a handle and features the NPR and the 89.7 GBH logo. So the numbers again, 888 897-9424 at gbhnews.org.
By the way, I was too embarrassed to do the sound effects because I'm looking at Senator Markey on Zoom, and I was humiliated to be opening and closing a water bottle in front of the senator. But, that causes me to reread Katherine from Waltham. Boston Public Radio interviews with elected officials and candidates are a public service and make me a better informed citizen of the Commonwealth. I'm better informed because of them, too. So is Marjorie. Ed Markey's going to join us in 2 minutes, Senator Ed Markey. Tomorrow, for an hour, the governor will be with us and you at the Boston Public Library in person. Next Wednesday, in person at the Boston Public Library at 11 o'clock, Mayor Wu will take any of your questions. I think that really matters, particularly in troubled times like these. If you agree, your opportunity to contribute to that work is now at 888-897-9424 or gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. We're live in Brighton, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. Live at the Boston Public Library tomorrow. As I said, the governor tomorrow, the mayor next Wednesday. We're joined now, though, via Zoom by Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey. Senator, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Great to be with you again. Thank you.
Senator Markey, thank you very much for joining us, too. So, you've been around for a while in the House and now in the Senate. What do Democrats do next? I know 24 of your colleagues voted for an election denier, Doug Collins. I was kind of surprised to see that, but they did. So is that the strategy, or is it the resistance that we're hearing more about now, or what?
Well, first, I'm going to vote against every one of Donald Trump's nominees. I'm voting against every one of them. It's clear that they're part of a plan to put Trump sycophants into every single agency in order to destroy them in terms of the services which they're provided for the American public for generations. And simultaneously, their goal is to loot Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, education funding to pay for the tax breaks for billionaires and millionaires in our country who were sitting right behind Trump at his inauguration. So I'm going to just begin by saying I'm voting against every one of them. And we have to stand up and fight in the Senate and in the House. We have to block any legislation which they seek to pass, which would codify what Trump is trying to do administratively. And we have to encourage the courts to continue to make the kinds of decisions which they've made over the last week, protecting birthright citizenship, ensuring that there is no freeze on federal spending, ensuring that the DOGE teenagers don't have access to the Treasury data, which is where the power is going to be gathered for Elon Musk and for Donald Trump. So that's what this whole thing is about. And so my message is don't agonize, organize, get out there, let's do the work.
Senator Markey, let's stay on the Democrats for a second. I'm sure you've seen the same polls we've seen, and the Democrats are not held in terribly high regard. In fact, in a Quinnipiac poll, the lowest regard since Quinnipiac started polling. I hate to put you in the position of explaining the rationale for your 24 colleagues not taking your position. Not only did they decide to support a Trump nominee, this is Collins at Veterans Affairs, they supported a Trump nominee who, as an election denier, signed on to an amicus brief, which was an attempt to overthrow the government of the United States of America by declaring Donald Trump the winner in 2020. What do they say in your private discussions as to why a yes vote in that situation makes sense?
Well, all I can do is stand up for what I believe in, what the people of Massachusetts believe in, what they may be hearing, what they may be thinking I'm not privy to. I think that ultimately the position which Massachusetts has and which I have and Senator Warren in these confirmation processes is going to be the one that is the consensus position of the Democratic Party within another couple of weeks, because the atrocities are just going to continue. Everything that we've seen so far is just a preview of coming atrocities. So Elon and his minions have not been elected. And these people, as they show themselves to be the handmaidens, I think are going to result in many of these nominees just being rejected as we move along. So I think we're still in the political education and activation phase, but we'll be in political implementation for everybody, I think, in the Democratic Party in a very brief period of time. What's happening now is just a preview of coming atrocities. And I think it's going to be clear, especially as people go to the streets, as we have millions of Americans start to rise up and show up in protest to what is happening. So we just have to remember that every Republican voted for every one of these nominees. These are Republican nominees. These are Trump nominees. Okay, and we're across the board going to have to get up and fight hard. That's what I did against Reagan. By the way, when Reagan tried to do in the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, he was only overridden once in 4 years on his vetoes, and it was on the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I was there helping to lead that effort in overriding that. So So they've had an ancient animosity towards the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, towards NPR. Okay, so Gingrich had it, George W. Bush had it. It just continues. It's ancient. And we're going to ensure that we fight as hard as we can in order to preserve the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Well, if you're wrong, you better talk fast because we could be off the air by 2 o'clock. Now, Ed Markey, can I stay on this for a minute? This is often a hope-deprived show. You made comments the other day, not unlike what you just made now, about people rising up, millions in the streets. I think your line was on the climate front, which obviously is near and dear to your heart and ours as well, and I hope our listeners as well. You said something like, give it till spring when the consequences of the behaviors become clear and there will be this uprising. Why, even if you're right about the actions, why are you so optimistic about the reaction?
I'm optimistic because I saw the same thing with Ronald Reagan. People were disoriented. They couldn't believe it happened. And so in 1981, he just kept moving based upon the momentum which had been built up after his election. But I'll give you a good example. In March of 1982, a year into Reagan, I introduced the Nuclear Freeze Resolution to call for a halt to the testing and deployment of all nuclear weapons. Reagan had walked away from all negotiations with the Soviet Union for the first time since Eisenhower. 4 months later, we had 1 million people in Central Park, still the largest single gathering of humanity in U.S. history, all built around that nuclear freeze movement. And Reagan had to change his views, or else they were going to get wiped out electorally. So I do believe that we're going to have, I don't believe we're going to have, in Rachel Carson's terms, I don't believe we're going to have a silent spring. I believe we're going to have, by Earth Day, we're going to have a massive set of demonstrations across our country and hopefully in Washington, D.C. itself, as he tries to cut Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act, clean air, clean water, solar for all of these programs meant to protect American families. It's going to be very clear where they have to go to get the money for the tax breaks for the millionaires and billionaires. And I'm confident that the American people will once again rise up. So Trump just wants us to give up. He wants to overwhelm us. He wants to have people just get discouraged because of the magnitude of the assault upon all programs. Okay, and I don't believe that's going to be the response. And I can see it actually in Massachusetts already. I can see people who are up and contacting our offices by the thousands, almost overwhelming our telephonic system in order to respond to to people's concerns. And as usual, I believe Massachusetts is going to be first. It's going to be the leader. People are going to be up and first. And so these cuts are going to affect people in blue and red states. It's going to become quite clear that many of these Republicans are going to be jeopardizing their jobs. They're going to be out. We picked up 26 seats after 2 years of Reagan. And the only thing that, historically has prevented those kind of counter insurgencies are external events. But in a normal electoral cycle, what he's asking these Republicans to do uniformly is to walk the political plank for their own well-being, while threatening primary opponents to them if they don't toe the line. So I just think ultimately we're going to have a lot of people who either start to change their votes because of their own personal political jeopardy, or are just going to be swept out in 2026.
We're talking to Ed Markey, senator from Massachusetts, obviously.
One quick thing before we leave the climate issues. The Globe had a piece this morning, Aaron Douglas, talking about how, the freeze on all the federal money going out was supposed to have been rescinded, but that the Solar for All, and you were quoted in this piece too, is unable to get their money, and the story raised the question, well, if the freeze was rescinded, why haven't they gotten their money? And does this mean the Trump administration is defying the court order that said that they couldn't freeze that money?
Yeah, we're getting reports that some of this money is still being frozen, but it's right now illegal. It's illegal. They do not have the right to do it. So I'm talking to EPA today. I'm going to be, making sure that they understand that they must obey the law. In fact, I'm going to have a press conference in 2 hours with the NRDC, the Sierra Club, all of the environmental groups in the United States. I've organized that press conference here in D.C. To raise the profile of the impact that these environmental cutbacks are going to have upon the lives of ordinary families.
So can I ask you a big picture question? A lot of the postmortems of the election, I know we're talking about the terrible things that are going on with all these agencies and Elon Musk, et cetera, but the polls are showing that a lot of people are not happy with the Democratic Party. They think that they hid the difficulties Joe Biden was having, articulating his message, pretended he was fine to run for president again. They think that Democrats didn't pay enough attention to the economy and inflation, and that they blamed, the protests about people coming over the border is all about racism, but then you had 40% of Latinos voting for people who were, in many cases, they were other Latinos. So what are Democrats thinking about that? That Democrats were too focused on social issues. So where does that leave you as a party?
The irony of all this is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk right now is explaining to voters across the country what the Democratic Party stands for. And as they call for an abolition of the Department of Education, we're going to get to explain that Title I is how we educate, all of those kids in America who need a little more help. I don't think people are going to be happy with that. It's how we fund programming for kids that might be just in need of extra assistance, like our own programs in Massachusetts.
Like special ed.
Like special ed.
Yep.
And so we're going to be able to put a human face on this. He ran on immigration. He ran on eggs. He ran on gasoline. Well, now it turns out the price of eggs is going up. He doesn't want to talk about it. Gasoline, can't do anything about it. Immigration, hey, follow immigration over here. Don't look over here at Medicare, Medicaid, education, clean air, clean water. But that's our job now as Democrats. We have to now take advantage of what Trump is trying to do, not get it locked up into treasury keys or Office of Personnel Management, but pull out the individual programs, which is what I'm going to do today with my EPA press conference, just to explain what these programs mean for ordinary families in our country. And then as his lackeys deny climate change, as they deny the need to have these programs on the books, all of this stuff pulls out at 70%. Every issue I've been mentioning pulls out at 70%. And they avoided having spotlights put on them because Trump was saying, I don't even know what Project 2025 is. I don't even know what people are talking about. Let's just go back over here to immigration. Let's go back over to the price of eggs and gasoline. Okay? And so now the real agenda is unfolding. And thank God we've already had, 3 court decisions freezing what Trump is trying to do. But we're going to have a lot of work as the Democratic Party. And all I can tell you is Trump is a uniter and not a divider. Trump is now uniting the Democratic Party in a way that it has not been united in some time. And it's going to give us an opportunity to really, fight back.
Speaking of unity, even if the Democrats are united, do RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard get confirmed next week?
Unfortunately, what I've seen is almost a uniform invasion of the body snatchers. Republicans who expressed some reservation about Pete Hegseth being the Secretary of Defense. And I looked over on the Senate floor as these people were all voting to confirm him. They all know better. And I hate to say it, I think the same thing's going to happen with Robert F. Kennedy. The same thing's going to happen with Tulsi Gabbard. They get, in the words of Godfather Part 1, they're all getting offers they can't refuse. They're all being told that they don't have a choice. They'll get a primary if they don't vote to confirm these people. Now, they're all not qualified. I'm going to be voting no on them, but I'm just afraid that Republicans right now are more afraid of their own job security than they are of the implications for families who are going to be negatively impacted all across the country for years to come.
You know, Senator Markey, I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but I want to go back. Well, it's not just climate; it's everything, transportation, et cetera. We've had this discussion with you before. In the Solar for All piece in the Globe, they were talking about funds that were already obligated. Deals struck, not a request for funds, but a request for funds that has been granted, money's obligated, yet the so-called portal is not open. I'm assuming your position is that if funds are already obligated, whether it's for the Sagamore Bridge or if it's for Solar for All, that ultimately, even if it's got to be a court that makes the determination, that there will be a decision that obligated funds get expended. Is that a fair characterization of what you think?
Exactly right. So, yeah, we worked very hard, Elizabeth Warren, Bill Keating, and I, to get $1.7 billion for the Sagamore Bridge so that it would sag no more. And the money is out
You've
there.
never said that before, I bet, have you, Senator Markey?
It's very nerve-wracking going over it.
This is a golden oldie show. Right? So
Go
just
ahead,
bringing
I'm
out
sorry.
greatest hits. So to the extent to which the contracts have been signed with the state of Massachusetts, it's legally binding.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what the courts are doing program by program right now. They're going to have to go through all of this. But once the contract is signed with the state and then with those who are going to be doing the work, you can't walk that back. That's legally binding. And so it's unconstitutional. It's illegal what they're trying to do. And they're going to try to steal from the people of Massachusetts. But at the end of the day, once there is a contract, you can't undo it with an executive order. Executive orders do not trump laws. They do not trump contracts. There's a limit to the power he has, and we're going to see that as each week goes by, especially as the courts rule on individual cases as well.
Senator, you and your colleague, Katherine Clark, of course, right here from Massachusetts, have reintroduced this Right to Contraceptive Acts. Tell us about it. Right to Contraception Act, I should say.
Well, Katherine Clark and I, we did that yesterday with other congresswomen and many other members as well. Hundreds have signed on, Democrats in the House and Senate. In the Dobbs decision, unbelievable, but Justice Thomas said that after reviewing the right of privacy with regard to abortion, in his dicta, he said, and now it's time for us to look at same-sex marriage and the Griswold case, which is the contraception case, the right to access to contraception. So we shouldn't assume that this Supreme Court, especially empowered, emboldened by this Trump era, isn't going to take a case that could overturn the right to access to contraception. So we've introduced the legislation, and we're going to put all Republicans on record on that issue because it's very powerful, and it goes across all religious, all ethnic, racial, and income groups in our country. They all believe they have a right to contraception. And believe it or not, we just still can't get Republican support to codify that right. So we've decided we're going to make it a fight. I introduced it in the Senate with Mazie Hirono, Katherine Clark, and other members of the House have introduced it, and we're looking forward to that battle. Again, that's an issue that I think people did not think was in jeopardy. but we're going to be explaining to the American people in Massachusetts, that it is threatened.
How's your state of mind? I mean this sincerely. Are there days you wake up and say, I just can't do this today? I mean, seriously.
I'm from Malden. My mother raised me to go to Boston College and Boston College Law School, and to not be like my grandfather, the laborer in Malden, the immigrant off the boat. But I'm still from Malden. So if you want peace, I love peace. My mother loved peace.
Okay.
But if you want war, I can engage in war with you, political war. Okay, that's how I was raised up. I got into politics because of Richard Nixon, because I hated him, because of his lies about Vietnam, because of his, empowerment of Spiro Agnew to talk about Democrats as nattering nabobs of negativism. The guy was just ticking me off. Okay, and so we know that Roy Cohn was the mentor for Joe McCarthy. We know that Roy Cohn was the mentor for Richard Nixon. And we know
Donald Trump.
That Roy Cohn was the mentor for Donald Trump to get his Trump Tower pick. And Cohn just has 3 little lessons. Number 1, attack, attack, attack. Number 2, never admit that you made a mistake. And number 3, even when you lose, call it a victory. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Very simple plan. And all we need is just to understand that and get up and fight. And so it's bringing out the Malden in me. My father, the milkman, the truck driver. My mother, trying to raise me to be one side of that. My father, the truck driver, always said to me, you can't beg for your rights. You got to take them, Eddie. He was a union leader, and that's how I react every single day.
Now, we only have a minute left, and I'm hoping you have time to settle a disagreement between me and Marjorie. I know this is selfish, but if you don't mind, we were at the Embrace Boston Martin Luther King Awards a couple of weeks ago, honored Duvall and Diane Patrick, Lauren and Charlie Baker, Reverend Irene Monroe, and Thea James, 5 couples. It was great. You were up on the stage for a lot of that. And when you were up on the stage doing something, I'm not sure what it was, I turned to Marjorie and I said, what is it that Senator Markey is doing? And Marjorie said to me, I believe he is dancing. I said, I'm not sure if he is dancing. Could you clarify, what were you doing up there, Senator? Could you? Oh, I like the moves.
I don't know about you, Jim.
Yes.
But when I got married, Susan made me go to dancing lessons for about a month because she didn't want me to embarrass myself. I don't know about you, Jim. Maybe you were a pro.
I've always been a pro, yeah. Arthur Murray and me.
Well, you know what I mean? So all you're seeing is those paid for, few dancing lessons, trying to do my best. Because as we went out, they said, well, the recipients are going to be dancing, and I hope you dance too.
And you did.
It's all on Memorex, okay? It's like my free throw shot, okay?
Okay.
You never lose it, once you practice it.
So Marjorie was right. It was dancing.
You were dancing. You acquitted yourself very well, Senator. It wasn't easy up there. You're welcome.
Thank you, Marjorie. Yeah.
Hey, Senator, it's great to see you. Anytime, you're welcome here. Thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
For being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We've been speaking with Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey, and we very much appreciate his time to join us. Okay, coming up after the 1 o'clock news, we're going to get a full report on a luxury Thailand spa where White Lotus was filmed. And we're also going to find out where to travel in 2025. Boston Globe travel writer Christopher Muther is going to join us. You're listening to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
And this is the GBH Winter Membership Drive. We are asking you to consider the value you get from GBH, whether that's on the radio, online, on the app, or through our newsletters. And then please make a contribution to support these services. That is how public radio works. We are funded primarily by listeners. So please give now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Zach Finn.
And to stay on track right now, we need 12 more people to give in the next 5 minutes. Now, GBH and NPR play a vital role in delivering trustworthy news that you can rely on. So by giving right now, you help ensure that quality journalism prevails over fake news. Please make that contribution right now. We're looking for 12 more in these next 4 minutes. 888-897-9424 or online at gbhnews.org.
And when you support GBH, we'd love to say thank you with our Stand with the Facts water bottle. This is a white stainless steel bottle. It's insulated. It features the statement, Stand with the Facts, along with the the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. This offer is only available until 7 o'clock this evening, but you're listening right now. Support your Boston Public Radio listening before the end of the show here. Now is a perfect time to do it. And we would love to send you the Stand With the Facts water bottle as our thanks. You can ask for it when you make that gift, $10 per month in support of all your listening. Call 888-897-9424. You can also check out what it looks like when you give online. That's at gbhnews.org.
And GBH depends on listener support for more than 70% of our operating budget. Now, your contribution is really more important than ever because it means we can keep the station on the air. It means we can make those quarterly payments to NPR. So please, be one of the many listeners who give to GBH right now. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Please take those just few minutes right now, make that contribution to GBH. We just need a little bit of contact information and the amount you'd like to give. You can sign up as a sustaining member or make a one-time gift, and in just 2 minutes, you are helping to bring NPR and GBH News to Boston and beyond. Call 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And when you make that decision to become a sustaining member of GBH today at $10 a month, we're going to send you something really awesome. It's the Stand With the Facts water bottle. The fight against misinformation really is a very important fight, so don't just stand with the facts. You can hydrate with the facts, but you got to get that call started, 888-897-9424. You can go online to gbhnews.org.
Thank you so much if you've made your contribution supporting all the programs that you listen to here on GBH and all that you get out of Boston Public Radio here. And we are looking now for just 8 more people to give 8 more contributions here in the next few minutes to wrap up this hour. And that is how it works. It's call by call, contribution by contribution, coming together to support all the listening here on GBH. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And I want to send a big thanks to Laura in Lexington, who says, I count on Jim and Marjorie to keep us informed about local and other issues, love their guests and all the fun they have as well. Thanks so much for that, Laura. That's really nice. And if you're like Laura and you value hearing about local issues that are important to you and the excellent guests, help make it happen. You can support GBH right now. Get that call started, 888-897-9424, or go online, gbhnews.org.
Thank you so much. You can also join folks like Susan in Manchester who made a contribution. We also heard from Peter in Portsmouth, Rhode Island, making a gift of support, and Jody in T-Ticket, who says, I've been listening to various programs on 89.7 for years, but over the last 5 years, I spend my middays listening to Jim and Marjorie. Thanks for keeping me in the know when I'm on the go. Join them. Make your gift of support right now by calling 888-897-9424 or give online gbhnews.org.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Furniture Consignment Gallery, committed to the circular economy for over 30 years. Current inventory is available to view in their showrooms in Burlington, Natick, Hanover, and Plymouth. More at FurnitureConsignment.com. And Samet's Blackstone Associates, providing brand-focused strategy, content, cross-media design, and fundraising support to help mission-driven organizations build and deepen relationships. More at SAMETZ.com.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH, HD1 Boston, online at gbhnews.org. GBH News, what matters to you?
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. More than 2 million federal workers are facing a midnight deadline to decide whether to take the Trump administration's offer to quit now but get pay and benefits through the end of September. Otherwise, officials say their jobs are not guaranteed. Well, the pay timeline is questionable given federal agencies are currently only funded through mid-March. Meanwhile, some staffers at a cybersecurity agency created during the first Trump administration are being offered a deferred resignation offer. NPR's Jen McLaughlin reports it's the latest move by President Trump and the team he put in place to try to shrink the federal government.
Staffers at the Department of Homeland Security's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency were initially exempt from a broad effort by the Trump administration to push federal employees to accept deferred resignation offers. However, according to sources who spoke to NPR on condition of anonymity, CISA employees have now received word they may apply for the program, though funding is contingent on congressional appropriations beyond March. The move is only adding to growing fears about the loss of technical expertise in the federal government, at a time when nation-state hackers from Russia, China, and others are infiltrating sensitive systems worldwide. Jen McLaughlin, NPR News.
Satellite photos show more than 100 tents have been erected at the U.S. naval base at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. NPR's Jeff Brumfield says the tents may eventually house thousands of migrants deported from the U.S.
The satellite imagery came from the commercial company Planet. It shows roughly 140 green military tents erected in fields next to one of Guantanamo's airstrips. The Trump administration says it wants to house up to 30,000 migrants at Guantanamo Bay. That number is far above what existing facilities can support. The White House says the base will serve as a temporary holding facility for individuals awaiting deportation to other countries, but some immigration experts say keeping migrants at Guantanamo could be illegal. Jeff Brumfield, NPR News.
One person who faces the risk of deportation back to Japan is Ippei Mizuhara. The former interpreter for Major League Baseball star Shohei Ohtani is being sentenced today in Southern California for fraud. Here's Steve Futterman.
It seems almost certain that Ippei Mizuhara will spend some time behind bars. Prosecutors are asking for a 57-month sentence. Defense attorneys are asking for just 18 months. It's estimated that the former interpreter stole around $17 million from Ohtani to cover massive gambling losses. Prosecutors have included in court documents a recording of Mizuhara calling a bank pretending to be Ohtani.
That's Steve Futterman reporting. At last check on Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was down more than 100 points at 44,765. The S&P was up 16 points and the Nasdaq gained 64 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Legacy admissions are quickly going out of fashion at U.S. colleges. That's according to new analysts out this week from the nonprofit Education Reform Now. And from our higher ed desk, GBH's Kirk Carapezza reports that schools are dropping the practice at a rapid pace thanks to a mix of public pressure as well as federal policy changes.
Since 2015, more than half the colleges that gave an admissions edge to alumni family members have stopped doing so. That's about 450 schools in total. 90 colleges have dropped the practice in the past 2 years, amid broader changes to admissions policies following the 2023 Supreme Court ruling that limited the consideration of race in admissions. Now it's mostly older, wealthy, and highly selective schools here in the Northeast, like Harvard and Yale, that are sticking with legacy admissions. Kirk Carapezza, GBH News, 89.7.
Join the mayors of Chicago, Denver, and New York City and Washington, D.C. on March 5th when they testify at a House Oversight Committee hearing about sanctuary city policies. Congressman James Comer of Kentucky, who invited the mayors, posted on X yesterday that the committee will ask the mayors for answers and examine measures to enforce compliance with the federal immigration laws. Wu has firmly defended Boston's immigration policies in the wake of President Trump's re-election, and she continues to point to Boston's status as the safest major city in the country. 30 degrees, some light snow out there. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
He is Jim Browdy. I am Marjorie Egan. Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. We are broadcasting live at youtube.com/GBH News. Tomorrow we're going to be back at the Boston Public Library. Governor Maura Healey is going to join us for another edition of Ask the Governor, taking our questions and yours from 1 to 2. And Mayor Wu on Wednesday, also at the Boston Public Library from 11 to 12. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. Here with us now is a guy who admitted in his column that he has the best job in the world. He's joining us via Zoom. That would be Boston Globe travel writer Christopher Muther. Hello, Christopher.
Hello, James. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking.
Well, I'll tell you what, I can't wait to talk to you, get a break from politics, but we're not going to get a break from politics right away because we have to talk about the second Trump slump because of politics in terms of our tourism being hurt here by the president's policies. What's that all about?
You know, just when I thought I was free of having to write about politics and travel, travel's about everything. So yes, there's politics. And as you know, Trump was about to slap Canada with a very large tariff, 25%. Canada wasn't going to take it sitting down. Justin Trudeau came back and said, we're going to give you the tariff. Obviously, as you know, it all paused. But in the interim, Trudeau told Canadians to maybe think about going on vacation to another place this year or staying local in Canada. So there's been this wave of patriotism in Canada and a real sort of like buy Canadian, travel Canadian. So we're, if what people are saying holds true, we're poised to lose, millions locally, billions nationally in dollars from inbound Canadian tourists. All as a result of, the president sort of blustering about tariffs.
Well, but I assume that it's not just tariffs and Canada. I assume when you attack your allies, when you say the European Union, you're next, that includes a lot of Western Europe, when you propose this insane Gaza proposal the other night, Middle East tourists might think twice. History shows how we treat nations and their people around the world is reflected in their desire or lack of desire to come here. Is that fair?
Oh, 100%. This all echoes what happened in 2016, 2017, when there was the ban on people from Muslim majority countries entering the U.S. and tourism dropped then. That also happened during the Gulf War, strangely, because when people don't agree with the country politically or with a leader, they tend to want to take their money elsewhere. So yeah, when you have a president who's saying it's not the Gulf of Mexico, it's the Gulf of America, and we need a stronger border wall, and you're going to pay for it. If you live in that country, you have no interest in going to spend money in the country that president is saying these things. So yes, and I feel like in many ways these are unintended consequences of his actions. Obviously, I don't know what the president thinks, but I feel like sometimes these things that happen come after he hasn't taken the whole picture into account. Like when you're so obsessed on tariffs and, and telling a country they should be the 51st state, perhaps you're not thinking this will make people angry and not want to spend their money where you are.
Okay, so where you spent not your money, the Globe's money. I'm a subscriber, so essentially my money and Marjorie's is you get to go. Talk about jealousy. You get to go to the locale for White Lotus season 3 in Thailand. And the question our whole staff was asking this morning was Jennifer Coolidge talking about you when she said this.
These are some high-end keys.
That was Jennifer. Was she talking about you or not? Do you think?
Well, I would turn the question back to you, Jim. Yeah. What do you think?
I would say yes. Here's the trailer for season 3, which sadly does not include Jennifer Coolidge, one of the greatest ever. It comes out on the 16th, and here's this little piece.
Everyone comes to Thailand. They're either hiding from someone or they're looking for someone. Old friends.
Long-time friends, not old.
What happens in Thailand stays in Thailand.
Oh, what does that mean?
It means we're not dead yet.
Amen. Amen.
So I didn't know until I read your piece. All 3 seasons, the hotels were 4 Seasons hotels in the different places?
Beautiful.
They were, yeah.
So I love the pictures.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
What they want to do is have a consistent level of quality throughout. And, the 4 Seasons resorts are usually pretty safe when you're thinking of luxury and quality and all of that.
So tell us about 4 Seasons. What city or town? Where was this in Thailand?
So it's on an island called Koh Samui. And so where the 3rd season is happening, which debuts not this Sunday but the following. I'm very excited.
So much.
And as soon as I heard that it was going to be filmed in Thailand, I thought, I'm going to go to this island and stay at this 4 Seasons before it's sort of out there, because when they filmed it in Italy, that 4 Seasons got booked up for 6 months solid.
That's great. That's
and
great.
so I was not going to be left out this time. And so I went back in November, and $1,700 a night.
Oh my God.
I was sort of anticipating a full week.
No deal, huh?
No deal. However, Jim didn't pay a subscription, so.
But your description of this place with the private plunge pool and calling every time you said something, they answered you with pleasure, Mr. Muther. And tell us about the turn down service you got at this snazzy place.
It really was all incredible. And, for $1,700 a night, you kind of expect things are going to be flawless. But here it went a step further in terms of service. Just the sort of level of kindness. It felt authentic. It didn't feel like, sometimes when you ask the concierge a question, they'll roll their eyes. Well, they do at me because I normally ask really dumb questions. But still, there was none of that there. And so, the turn down service was spectacular. The chef makes candies and cakes that they leave in your room. I had a bathtub in my room with a clear view over the cliff into the ocean.
Wow.
And it was just, the bathtub itself was a work of art. There's a private beach there. It really was just
charging
amazing.
Cords. What they did with your messy charging cords. Tell people that. I love this part.
Yeah, I've stayed in a lot of hotels, and I've never had this happen before where, I left my charging cords around because I'm a slob, and came back to my room, and they'd all been sort of neatly wound up, and they were all held together with a leather Four Seasons cord cozy, I guess is the only way to describe it.
I love
You know what struck me about this excellent piece by you? You mentioned, which I thought was interesting, and I found it interesting, that you went into this pool that was part of your room, realized it was
Plunge
your pool only, so you decided to shed your bathing trunks or suit and go naked. That I found was interesting. What I found equally interesting is you mentioned that you were naked again in the same story. Was there a what was that about, do you think, Christopher Muther?
Well, remember that story I wrote about Virgin Voyages?
Oh, yes.
Cruising. It was just like that. No, I'm kidding. I don't think I've ever written about being naked in a story. And for some reason, maybe it's a White Lotus thing. That even as a high-end gay, sometimes you get to take the clothes off.
Can I say one thing about White Lotus? Beyond the fact that the show, I think, is spectacular. Both seasons were great.
Have been
We had
great.
Jennifer Coolidge in studio about 5 or 6 years ago. And, you say, of all, people always say, who's your favorite guest? Well, how excited were we when this woman walked in the room? And
thrilled.
the beauty is, she's
great in
exactly
everything.
as great with humans.
And she's local.
Including us. Right, she's a Massachusetts kid. Yeah. She was fabulous. So in any case, we're talking to Christopher Muther. We got to take a break, Marjorie. There's a clock
we have to
thing
take a
here,
break.
yeah.
That's right, because
But he's
we're in
not going
Pledge. I always
anywhere.
forget. I get carried away. Okay, we're going to be right back talking with Christopher Muther about the great trip he had to St. Petersburg and where we should go in 2025. You're listening to the Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Live, local, 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. Jim Braude, Marjorie Egan, Boston Public Radio. It's here on GBH Radio because of your support. Now's your chance to keep the conversation going. Give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424.
Can I, these notes that some of you are kind enough to take time to write after you're kind enough to make a contribution at 888-897-9424 gbhnews.org, they're unbelievable. Rosemary in Leominster, a trusted source of factual reporting, plus I love Jim and Marjorie. Amber in Worcester, GBH is my lifeline, especially Marjorie and Jim. I'm already a sustaining member, but I'm donating again today because it's so important. We'd be informed now more than ever. Plus, I really want that water bottle that speaks the truth.
It's a nice water bottle.
And by the way, finally, we got one of these from an unnamed person in Franklin. Love them. especially Marjorie Egan. So there you go. What is Christopher Muther nodding for? What is that about? In any case, these are beautiful and they make us feel great. And thanks for taking the time to write a note.
Okay, here's the number again. It's 888-897-9424. That's 888-897-9424. Or you can give securely at gbhnews.org. And the water bottle that Jim just mentioned is this 20-ounce white stainless steel deal, insulated, has a handle and says "Stand with the Facts," which is so important because, as I've said before, I tend to be more reading the text messages than Jim is. And it's amazing to me how many people send me notes about or texts about things that just aren't true, that they're convinced are true. There's a real problem with not having factual information around here, and I think it's gotten us into big political trouble. So anyway, Stand with the Facts. It fits perfectly with the NPR and Boston Public Radio, I guess, mantra for what you should be doing is try to make sure you're in the real world. 888-897-9424 is the number. gbhnews.org is the website. And as I always say, if you didn't have these occasional pledge drives, then you would have to listen to these horrible commercials. And everybody knows how horrible the commercials are, even though, as we've said before, Jim did fine work in the male virility pill salesmanship, and I did my fine work in the mattress sales. I didn't shill. I liked the company. They were a really good company.
I didn't shill either. And Marjorie, by the way, exaggerates the virility thing. But nevertheless, who am I?
That's his story now. Wasn't his story then?
That is my story then. And by the way,
now
we made a lot of
man.
money doing those commercials. Okay.
What?
Let's leave it at that.
Okay.
As I was saying, the number is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. The gift today is great, but as I say it every day. I know you're tired of this. The gift should not be what causes you to give. That's like an extra add-on. What should cause you to give is the fact that Ed Markey was just here. Christopher Muther is here now. The governor tomorrow. Wednesday, the mayor. Tons of great guests. And by the way, a lot of your comments say how great the guests are, and they are. So if you agree with any part of that, call us at 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org, and give what you can. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Braude and Marjorie Egan. We're continuing our conversation with Globe travel writer Christopher Muther.
So Christopher Muther, we were speaking before about some people from other countries not wanting to come to the United States because of Trump being president and doing tariffs, et cetera, or trying to do tariffs, et cetera, talking about it. A lot of people, including me, are hesitant to go to Florida now because of the terrible politics down there with the, books you can't read in school and banning this and trying to take over these universities and Ron DeSantis, very anti-gay kind of politics. But yes, you described this wonderful time you had in St. Petersburg. So do tell.
Yeah, on your first point, Marjorie, the whole idea of going to Florida and spending money in Florida, I know a lot of people have a hard time with, and I totally understand that. And so, we have an issue that's devoted. We throughout the year we'll run a lot of stories that might have Florida in them, but we have an issue dedicated to Florida. And so, personal feelings aside, I needed to write about Florida. And so I was thinking about, sort of unusual things that I'd heard. And one of them was that St. Petersburg was a very gay-friendly city. And we all know, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Key West, super gay-friendly, but had no idea about St. Petersburg. And I went there and was just completely blown away by it. The fact that I was sitting outside and people were walking down the sidewalk, holding hands, same-sex couples, pride flags everywhere, crosswalk painted like a rainbow flag. And this is Florida. This is the don't say gay. And everyone there was saying gay, and they weren't just saying it. It was everywhere in your face. And as a gay man, it was too much gay for me. I'm kidding. It wasn't.
What would you call it? Queertopia?
It was queertopia.
I love that.
But what was sad about the story? I love that story, actually. But what was sad is you went on to say, I think I got this right, that you were advised by people there, stay within our borders, meaning don't go to some of the surrounding rural towns because that's the Florida that doesn't say gay and is not queertopia. That's horrible at the same time that St. Petersburg is to be celebrated, no?
It is. And I feel like a lot of it depends on the individual, sort of where you feel comfortable, what your level of safety is, but also just sort of Florida in general. I'm a cisgender white man who happens to be gay, and people just assume I'm like butch, straight, straight acting, straight appearing, I believe is the term often used for me. So not necessarily worried about it. Why are you laughing, Jim? And
something you said. Go ahead.
It's probably different for someone who's trans than it is for me, who might feel differently about how they present to the world. So in that sense, again, it could be Florida in general, it could be the towns, the rural towns outside of the cities where someone might not feel comfortable. But I was even struck by someone saying that, it's someone who is the head of the sort of gay chamber of commerce, who's all about promoting it. He was certainly honest enough to say it. And I think it's good to keep in mind for people.
So, Christopher Muther, you did what everybody wants a travel writer to do, which is here are the places you should consider visiting in 2025. Not the obvious stuff that all of us could do. And you, at the end, reluctantly, it seems, also said some of the worst places you've been in one of your stories. And before we get to your recommendations for 2025, what is a stink bug? Really? I mean, I don't even know what one is. You encountered one or some in an Airbnb. A
lot.
What are they?
They look like a potato bug, if you know what those look like.
No, go ahead.
And the thing is, if you smush them, it smells really bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
So you can't sort of like standard kill a stink bug. You have to sort of like get rid of it.
What do you say? Please leave? What do you do to get rid of it if you're not going to? What do you do?
Well, they're polite, so you have to usually write something, a little, thank you for coming, maybe a gift bag if they leave. It's really the only way to get a stink bug to leave your house. No, it's in this particular case, well, ideally you keep them out. But, to reference what you're talking about, it was an Airbnb in the Hudson Valley of New York. It was a very hot Memorial Day weekend, and the owners hadn't really made the air conditioning sufficient, and it was locked behind a box, so we couldn't adjust it. And meanwhile, you think open windows, but there were no screens in the windows.
Oh, God.
But there were lots of stink bugs outside who wanted to come in, so it was either death by heat or death by stink bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we only have a couple minutes left. Give us 2 or 3 of the places that people might not think of that should be on their travel list in 2025, Christopher Muther.
I would say closer to home, I think New Brunswick, Canada, is really overlooked by folks here. We tend to go to other parts of Canada, but New Brunswick, which is, borders Maine, there's a JetBlue flight that goes to Presque Isle, which is right next to New Brunswick. So I recommend folks go to St. Andrews in Canada, which is a really charming little beach town. It really is like art galleries, little restaurants. It's sort of like a quintessential oceanside village that I had never been to. And when I was there, I was really, really charmed. And if you need further incentive, there's a partial solar eclipse happening on March 29th, which will be viewable in St. Andrews, New Brunswick, but not viewable here.
That's great. Give us another one.
Mentioning close to home, Wolfboro, New Hampshire, which is close to home. Why Wolfboro?
I mean, Wolfboro is one of those, and I never use this phrase, punches above its weight, but it punches above its weight. Now I'm going to punch myself for saying that, but it has like some really great museums. It has a really nice hotel, the Pickering House Inn, which is gorgeous. I really, really like the Libby Museum of Natural History, which is just kind of kooky. It's on the lake it's on Lake Winnipesaukee.
Is this the town where Mitt Romney rescued the person on his jet ski a bunch of years ago? Isn't Wolfboro where that is?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's on Winnipesaukee somewhere. I'm not sure.
Oh, Jamie says yes, and Jamie apparently knows such things. So that's yes. It's another attraction.
There you go.
Okay.
Mitt Romney, I guess he's got a house up there.
Give us one that's not so close that really is at the top of the Muther list.
All right. So I will say Nevis.
Who?
Nevis, which is an island in the Caribbean.
Oh.
Normally it's attached. Normally people just say St. Kitts and Nevis. But Nevis is kind of its own thing, and Right now, the only way to get there is from St. Kitts. It's like a quick boat ride over. But in the coming years, they're expanding the airport to handle bigger planes, which means plane loads of Americans going to Nevis. So right now, it's sort of a quiet spot. Beautiful beaches. Beaches tend to be pretty, I don't want to say empty, but, comparatively empty for Caribbean during high season. So I'm recommending that folks go to Nevis now. Think about going this winter, maybe next winter, before the new airport opens, expands. And that way you can kind of enjoy it before other tourists ruin it.
And by the way, Christopher has a long list. If you Google his piece or go to the Globe and check it out. And Christopher, it's wonderful to see you as always.
Thank
wonderful
you, Christopher.
To see you both.
Love
you,
the
Marjorie.
background on your Zoom. It looks like you're in a
That's
wonderful
his house.
place there.
That's
I know,
his
but it's
house.
beautiful. It's got nice windows.
I know it's got really
very nice windows.
Really nice, yeah.
Okay, Christopher, thank you very much.
Pillows
See you
on
later.
the couch and nice stuff on the walls. Nice cabinet back there.
We
nice
have been
stuff.
speaking with Boston
See you,
Globe travel writer Christopher Muther. He has a very nice house.
He does.
Thank you very much
Very nice
for joining us. After a quick break, across the nation on Sunday, millions of Americans will dip a chip or bite and dip again because it's Super Bowl Sunday when there are a lot of dips around. Are we a nation of a-holes? We'll take your calls and texts for another round of Am I the A-hole? Are those dippers in the dips a-holes? You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
It's time to support Boston Public Radio on GBH. Listener contributions pay for the program and keep it on the air. You don't have to give much to make a difference. Please make a difference by giving now at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
888-897-9424. That, again, is the number, and the website is gbhnews.org. Jim has been reading a couple of these things, and they really are nice. Rosemary from Cranston said,
nice.
Wonderful guests, and we're well informed. Carla from Providence talks about non-manipulative way that NPR reads their news, and which is harder and harder to find in this wild storm of radicalization and misinformation. Listen to this, Jim. She said GBH is both the raft and the lighthouse. That was lovely. That was very poetic, Carla. So anyway, we really appreciate people that can contribute, because most of our money to run this operation comes from contributions, modest contributions, $10 a month, $15 a month. And we really appreciate that you take the time to donate to us, and that you take the time to write down why you donate to us in those listener comments. We read as many as we can. So if you like what you hear, we are supported. More than 70% of our budget comes from listeners. Some of it comes from grants. Some of it comes from the government. We're worried about that. But most of our budget, as I said, comes from the generosity of people that are listening to us right now. So if you can, and you haven't done it yet, we really would appreciate if you could help us out here. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Okay, and let me tell you what the enticement is today. That's what Marjorie calls it.
Please do.
People call it the gift. If you give $10 a month, it's a 20-ounce white stainless steel insulated bottle with a snap closure, Marjorie, and a carrying handle. Oh, it does have a carrying handle. And on the side, one side it says "Stand with the Facts" NPR, and the other side it says GBH 89.7. So it's a good deal. $10 a month, you get that. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. You've all been incredibly generous, both with your money and your words, and we hope those of you who haven't contributed yet can find it in yourself to do it. 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. I'm live from Brighton, and we're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Live at the library tomorrow with Governor Healy for Ask the Governor 1 to 2. We have great live music, by the way, from Kyle Ray. He's a Kentucky-based songwriter playing with Sheryl Crow tomorrow in Concord through Roger Brown's Salt Lick Incubator. So on to Marjorie's favorite segment of the week, Emma, who is the a-hole? At its best, this year's Super Bowl, Sunday night, should be a moment where the entire country can get together, plop down on the couch, and shovel some food into your pie hole. But what happens when all of that goodwill and unity falls apart over the seemingly innocuous act of double dipping? That's our question for this week's round of Am I the A-hole? The basic argument goes like this. Double dip, this is from those who say the a-hole is the person who complains about it. Double dipping isn't that gross. This person makes the case that we're already exposed to everyone else's germs all the time, public restrooms, public transit, that kind of thing. So what's a minuscule amount of either saliva or bacteria on somebody's hands when they return to the spinach artichoke experience? Are they right? Are the double dippers of the world in the right to do the double dipping? Or are they the a-holes? Or is the a-hole the person who makes us think over a minor double dipping faux pas? And by the way, while we're at it, this is a brilliant idea. One of our colleagues. Yeah. What is your dip game ahead of the big game? Are you a 7-layer kind of person or more of an onion dip or guacamole kind of person? 877-301-8970. I have to be honest right up front here.
Yes, Jim.
I am not only someone who supports double dipping, with a couple of exceptions. I am a double dipper. And the reason is you stated it brilliantly this morning at our meeting.
I did, brilliantly.
Chips are so damn big these days, you can't double a single dip unless you're willing to have half of your chip be dip-free. Would you agree with that?
Well, what you do is you put your big chip in, you dip it, you eat what's on it, and then you turn the other end of the chip around, so you're not putting back the chip in that you bit into, you're putting the other side of the chip, Jim. That way you can double dip.
Well, you want to hear the foolish idea that Zoe just said in my ear?
Sure.
Break the chip in half in advance? That destroys the whole gestalt of the whole experience. No, you do not break a chip in half ever. Now, let me explain what the rules are, even though I'm pro double dipping. The side of the chip that you re-dip cannot have been mouthed by
That's
you.
right.
It's got to be
That's
a
correct.
mouth-free
That
kind of
is
thing. And your
correct.
hands have to be relatively clean. If not, those would be exceptions. I would say that in those limited cases, the double dipper is the a-hole. The number is 877-301-8970. This is a very timely who's the a-hole conversation because it's obviously going to come up at all the Super Bowl parties on Sunday night.
You know, I was looking up dips before.
Oh, you were?
Yes. Does anybody still do the Lipton onion soup mix dip?
Yes, they do.
Mixed with 16 ounces of sour cream.
Yes, they do.
Isn't that considered to be kind of embarrassing to show up with that and kind of out of it in terms of the cooking scene?
What is your I've never thought to ask you this, and I apologize. I feel bad. What is your favorite dip, Marjorie? Wow, look at her.
Well, I do like really sour creamy dips
You do.
And guacamole. I mean, who doesn't like guacamole? I also like salsa. I like a lot of things. I like hummus, cilantro, spicy honey, sriracha.
You like cilantro?
It's a dip, cilantro dip.
I've never heard of that. I love cilantro. What kind of dip is cilantro?
You can make a dip out of it. You can make a dip
what do you
out
do
of
with it?
Well, you look it up. I don't know how to make it. You got to look it up in the under favorite dips things. It's
Can I
big.
ask you a question?
What?
In addition to the double dipping question, which is our primary question at 877-301-8970, is the a-hole the double dipper or the person who complains about the double dipper? Is there ever a time when you run out of chips where you just stick your finger in there and I mean, I'm trying to be honest with the audience here. Do you ever you look around, there are no more chips in the bowl, and it's fabulous dip, maybe even homemade, and you shove your finger in there?
When I was in college, there was this girl who sat across from us at dinner because we all ate at the same tables all the time.
Yeah.
And she would eat cottage cheese for dinner.
With her finger?
And when she would get to the end of the cottage cheese, she'd scrape her finger across the plate and put it in her mouth and then do it over and over again.
Well, that's the end, so that no one's going to eat afterwards. What's the big deal?
Well, because they were grossed out with that. That was disgusting. They talked and whispered about her all the time. It wasn't very nice, but they did it. She went on to have a wonderful life, though, Jim, so she got over the fact that her classmates were ridiculing her about her cottage cheese technique. 877-301-8970.
Zoe is making up for her ridiculous point about breaking the chip in half. She just said she's not putting her finger in someone else's mouth, so why is it an issue? I'm totally with her. Why is it an issue? Why was it an issue?
Because I think now people are very concerned after COVID, or now that you have other things going around, norovirus. That's what I had a couple of weeks ago. That's
but no one's
terrible.
eating it after she scrapes out the bottom.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
You're talking about your friend who ate the bottom of the cottage cheese. Yeah.
I think it just grosses people out that someone would run their finger along, get all these cottage cheese pieces, and then put it in their mouth.
What if she licked the size of the tube? Would you? 877-301-8970. This is a
picked up the plate and just licked across the whole thing. Just
if you're really into it, you're really into it.
Yeah, I think most people think that's not a good idea.
Okay, we have two questions on the table. The first question is, who's the a-hole, the double dipper or the complainer about the double dipper? And secondly, to sort of broaden the discussion, which of the classic dips are your favorite? Can I tell you one dip I do not like? I feel I have to be honest.
Certainly, Jim.
I don't like baba ganoush. I just don't
you don't like baba ganoush. Okay.
Hummus, yes. Baba ganoush,
okay.
no. Okay.
Listen to this.
What?
This is a crazy solution. I think this is from our staff, Zoe, as well.
Yeah.
Solution to double dipping. Put the dip in a plastic bag,
really?
Cut out the corner tip, and just pour it right in your mouth, a la Jim and Meatloaf.
No, it's liverwurst, but it's not meatloaf.
Whatever nasty stuff he eats that way. Can't use the word she used, but you do that liverwurst thing. It's really disgusting.
It's fabulous. And by the way, I am doing it on Super Bowl Sunday as my Eagles win Super Bowl 59.
Okay, Andy in Attleboro is unequivocal. Double dippers are gross, disgusting, unsanitary, narcissistic a-holes. Rude, rude, rude. And another anonymous texter hopes we're going to play the Seinfeld clip of George double dipping. Jim, can you call for that?
We
please?
actually do. We have that.
We have that. It's famous.
I would argue the most famous Seinfeld bit. Would you not agree? It's right up there.
Very famous.
Here it is.
You dipped the chip, you took a bite, and you dipped again. So that's like putting your whole mouth right in the dip. From now on, when you take a chip, just take one dip and end it.
Well, I'm sorry, Timmy, but I don't dip that way.
Oh, you don't, huh?
No. You dip the way you want to dip. I'll dip the way I want to dip.
Give me the chip.
Hey.
That is a pretty good scene there. Let's take some calls. 877-301-8970. We're talking about double dipping, and who is the a-hole several days ahead of Super Bowl Sunday. Where do you want to go?
Margot from Hancock,
Hey,
New Hampshire.
Margot.
Thank you for calling.
How are you? Good to talk to you.
Hey. So really short and sweet. No double dipping. It's disgusting. Do not do it.
Why is it disgusting? What's disgusting about it?
Well, for one thing, I know at least 3 people right now with norovirus, and you got to take care of the germ thing. And if you have if your chips are too big, Jim, just take a little plate and put a nice big scoop of that dip on your plate, and you can do whatever you want with it at that point.
Can I tell you, Margot, even though I disagree with you, even though I'm very fond of you, I'm so glad you brought that up. There is nothing less satisfying than taking a certain amount of dip out and putting it on a separate plate. The joy of the dip, at least in my opinion, Margot, is shoving your chip or your cracker right into the vat of the thing. Would you not agree? Would you not agree with that?
I disagree. I
Okay,
think it's gross.
Margot, we love you anyway. Thanks from Hancock, New Hampshire, one of our favorite towns. 877-301-8970 is the number.
Okay, people are asking, like Carol from Rhode Island, why can't you put some dip on your plate?
They just said that. That was Margot's point. That's what Margot said.
Or use a spoon to put dip on the chip.
Oh, that's like eating pizza with a knife and fork. I mean, get over it.
You can get germs from your fingers in the dip as well. And this person says 1 dip per chip, just like the person on Seinfeld said.
Let me ask you one. We have to take a break. But before we take a break, you don't think if you single dip, there's a chance you're going to get your finger in the dip as well? I think there's a real good chance of that.
There's a real good chance of that.
Okay,
that's right.
Take a break.
Norovirus, is often from food. That's why they get it on the cruise ships, those buffets. Yeah, they get their hands on
How'd you
buffets.
get yours?
I don't know. I don't know how I got it, but I got it. Anyway, we're talking about dipping for the Super Bowl. Is it okay to double dip your onion dip, your Lipton soup onion dip mixed with sour cream? We're going to continue talking about this on 89.7 GBH, Boston Public Radio.
Think about it. For 3 hours every day, you get to hear thought-provoking conversations on local, national, and international issues for free. It only happens with your support, so please support your Boston Public Radio listening by calling 888-897-9797 888-897-9424 or giving online at gbhnews.org.
The number to give, just so you remember it, is 888-897-9424, gbhnews.org. I haven't said this. It goes really fast, by the way. If you're busy and you say, well, I can't do it today, I'll do it another day. You got to go
fast.
Do it. It goes fast. Number 2, by the way, a lot of people are texting and saying, I'm going to give, but I'm waiting for the mug. Bad news, no mug. So if you want to contribute to the station, there are a lot of fabulous, as Marjorie calls them, enticements, including this water bottle, the stainless steel thing. And so don't wait for the mug. Contribute because you care about what we and our colleagues do here. Lauren Lexington says, I count on Jim and Marjorie to keep us informed about important local and other issues. Love their guests and all the fun as well. We love our guests and the fun as well, too. And if you want to give $10 a month, which if you don't feel like it or don't have that much money, then don't. But if you do and you want it, the water bottle is pretty great. It says Stand With the Facts, NPR on one side, GBH 89.7, 20 ounces, stainless steel, insulated. Marjorie is a water bottle expert. I am not. And she says it's a fabulous water bottle. So take her advice.
It is a fabulous water bottle.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Well, we're all trying to stay away from plastic water bottles, right? Because they're bad for the environment.
No,
they have those
right.
little microplastics into your gut.
You're right.
Where was the story about how people have a credit card worth of microplastics in their body? I don't know if that's true. That's a lot of microplastics.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it's gross to think about.
Yeah,
Almost
we should
as gross
stop
as
eating
double...
credit cards, by the way. I think it's a good solution to the problem.
Okay. Our show is almost done. If you've been hesitating, this is the time to donate. We hope you have if you haven't yet, because we are on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have an awful lot of people helping us to put our show together, just our show together. We have a lot of people, from the engineers to our producers, the people that help us down at the Boston Public Library. It takes a big crew to do this. And we depend, and we have a great crew, and we're very grateful for them. But all of that costs money. Most of our budget comes from listener support and people who are generous with small gifts, like $10 a month or $15 a month. But we do count on people to give those small gifts to keep this operation going, especially since we don't know what's going to happen with cutbacks in government funding. That's kind of a scary time. So anyway, 888-897-9424 is the place to give. gbhnews.org is the website. Jim is right. It takes only a couple of seconds. It's very efficient. The operators are standing by, and the website is very quick. And we what are you laughing at? The operators are standing by.
They are standing by, obviously.
You see those things on TV. The operators are standing by.
I love that expression. Yeah.
That's right.
Jealous that you got to say it, though. So go ahead.
888-897-9424, gbhnews.org.
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. It's our Thursday final segment of the day, which means it's Am I the A-hole segment. It's one of the simplest ones we have in honor of Super Bowl Sunday and all the dips and things you're going to have, is who is the A-hole? The double dipper or the person who decides to complain about the double dipper? It couldn't be much clearer than that. By the way, one of my favorite dips I did not even mention, and I'm embarrassed because I love it. Here's our friend Julianne. Just pronouncing, because it's hard for some non-Greeks, one of my favorite all-time dips. Here it is. Tzatziki. Tzatziki. Yeah, a little bit too much of a pause between the syllables, but I think he got it there. Tzatziki, Julian, for normal people.
Okay, what's in it?
It's like a yogurty spice. You don't know what tzatziki is?
No,
it's like a yogurt. Correct me if I'm wrong, one of my coworkers. Thank you, Zoe. Yogurt, cucumber, dill, lemon. That's what I meant to say. Thank you.
That sounds good.
Okay. That's, by the way, that comes from the same person who says you should break your chips in half. So if you choose to listen to her, it's your business.
A lot of people on the text line are saying they actually give people little plates, so everybody have their own little plate of dip.
That's our friend from Hancock said.
To go through.
It's horrible.
Communal experience. You're around the dipping bowl. You all want to kind of hang out there and discuss the latest plays and whether the Eagles are going to win like Jim wants them to, or whether it's going to be, the Chiefs catching up on the New England Patriots in terms of Super Bowl wins. It makes a lot of people around here very nervous. Anyway, let's go to Mark in Waltham. What do you think, Mark?
Hello, Mark. Welcome.
Hi. Hey, first time, long time.
Thank you.
Love you guys.
Thank you.
The a-hole is the person who shows up with neurovirus. What is going on here?
That's right. That's right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Double dipper or not.
Exactly. You keep mentioning the Super Bowl. I'm a Bills fan. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I personally think, double dip. If everybody knows what they're getting into, show up and double dip. And if you don't like it, get one of your own little plates.
That, by the way, that is a brilliant first call. You should be embarrassed your first call is about double dipping, but that was a brilliant analysis from beginning to end.
I live my life. I live my life in embarrassment.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for an excellent call. Call us again soon, please.
One of the texters says this. Dipping anything are you risk? I know that going in.
Well, that's exactly what Mark
said. Are you risk averse or are you not risk averse? I mean, exactly.
By the way, we haven't discussed how much fun is it to dip anything into a big bowl.
See how much you can shove on there.
Oh, exactly.
Get into one chip before it breaks.
It's incredible.
You can get carried away.
You can get carried away.
And you have to have a strategy, too. Do you go to the middle of the bowl is obviously the best place to go to get the
Why do you say that? I'm curious. Why do you think
I just think it works better that way. Unless it's a thin chip, and then you're kind of screwed because your chip will break into the dip.
By the way, is that one of the most upsetting things
Very
ever?
upsetting.
If you really get into it and you're excited about the dip and you put the chip in and it cracks right in your hand. Isn't that horrible?
Yeah, it's
sad, actually.
Makes you feel very unlucky, Jim. Let's
go to Nick in North Attleboro. You're next on Boston Public Radio. We're talking about the a-hole impact of double dipping. Hello there.
How many dogs have I don't know let kiss me on the face and it's not a problem?
Good point, Nick.
So what are we
Good
scared
point.
of? If
Yeah.
they can kiss me, we can double dip all day. That's all I'm saying.
That is a
Okay.
beautiful concept, Nick. That was brilliant. Another one. Thank you very much for the call. Do you mind when dogs kiss you on the lips, like Harry the P, best dog from C to C, when he was with us?
My own dog is one thing. Other dogs, I must admit, I'm not really that keen about getting licked by another dog. Ron from Essex says, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody sees it, same with double dipping. And then somebody else said they went and consulted Emily Post's book on etiquette, which of course says no double dipping.
It does?
Even if you turn around your carrot stick. Well, of course. I mean, it's really not good etiquette to do it that way, Jim.
I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
It's real world.
And then somebody else said they went to a wedding and watched somebody eat the wedding cake with their fingers, licking the frosting
I thought
off
that's
their
what the
fingers
groom or the bride or
during
somebody's
the whole time.
Aren't you supposed to put your hand in the wedding cake or something? Or no?
Oh, some people smash the wedding cake into the bride's face. I think that's a horrible thing to do.
No, I wasn't talking about smashing it into the bride's face.
Yeah,
I was talking about
haven't you ever
sticking
seen
your hand
that?
in
I've
there.
seen people do that. Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
They feed the bride.
Oh, that's what it is. Yeah.
They feed the bride with the cake, but that's only one little.
Yeah.
It's not like sitting there with your fingers in the wedding cake.
Not like that.
Let's go to Patty in Jamaica Plain.
Hey,
what do you
Patty,
think?
what's up?
Well, I happen to think that double dipping is really disgusting.
Why is that?
Because you never know who the person is that's double dipped and what they have. They could have a disease and not even know it, like
That's right.
virus or COVID or whatever.
Yeah.
And I equate it to people who go to the bathroom and don't wash their hands and then come back and put their hands all over the food or maybe prepare the food.
Yeah.
So it's something I really find awful. And my mother always said to us when we were growing up,
What'd she say?
if we went to reach, if it was like a bowl, a basket of bread or something with various items, she'd say, if we touch it, she'd say, if you touch it, it's yours.
Yeah, I've heard that actually. Maybe we had the same mother. That Patty, that was excellent advice. If you touch it, you own it. You ever hear that when you were a little kid from your mother? She ever say that
I
to you?
heard if you break it, you own it. That's what I've heard in the stores.
Isn't that Governor General Powell? Didn't he say that? Was that his thing or?
Oh, that was about Iraq.
That preceded him, right?
But I was talking about more modestly.
Oh,
about
like
going
a
into
China
gift
bowl
store.
or something?
Yeah, if you go into a gift store, you pick it up, you break it, you own it.
Does that apply to the
Yeah.
chip as well or not? No, really? Really?
I don't know. And if you lose a chip in the bowl, you go and get your tweezers and pick it out. What do you do, Jim?
You stick your hand in there. You do. You just stick your hand in there. First of all, the key to all this, which we haven't said, but time's up, is you look around. If nobody's looking, you double dip, you triple dip, you stick your hand in the bowl. Who cares? We're done, Marjorie.
We're done.
This is how the show works.
I would say the consensus is it's gross. We shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not stopping. No, I'm not. I'm just not. Something matters to me.
Thank you very much for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. You can tune in, you keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast or check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio. Tomorrow we're going to be back at the Boston Public Library. Governor Maura Healey is going to join us from 1 to 2. She'll take our questions and yours. We're going to have our usual live music Friday. This week it is singer-songwriter Kyle Ray, about to open for Sheryl Crow tomorrow night in Concord. Also with us, GBH's Callie Crossley and Boston Globe business columnist Shirley Young. We want to thank our crew. I talked about the crew we have, and we have a big crew, even bigger crew, and we're at the library. Today we have Zoe Matthews, Aidan Conley, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, John LeClark Parker, our engineer, our executive producer, Jenny Bologna, our streaming team, Maddie Geyer, and Patrick Lally. I want to mention that the Culture Show is coming up right after us at 2 o'clock with Jared Bowen right here on 89.7 GBH. No News will be right after us.
Did we forget to talk to Jared, by the way? Were we supposed to talk to him?
Yeah, what happened to Jared?
I don't know. By the way, speaking of what happened, can I just spend the last couple of seconds here? One of our colleagues, who is one of the most talented, terrific people I've ever worked with and ever known, is retiring today. Mary Blake. She's been at a ton of stations in town, ending her career here. Here's just a sampling of Mary covering everything from local politics to pandemic to seniors to sharks. Here's Mary Blake.
This is GBH 89.7. Good afternoon to you. I'm Mary Blake. Age does not slow them down.
We have exercises twice a week. We have stretching classes twice a week. Yeah.
Are you friends? Have you been friends for a long time?
Oh, yes.
Greg Skomel has been studying shark behavior off the Massachusetts coast for more than 30 years. Last Monday, as he tried to tag one, the animal breached the water.
Did you guys see that? Wow!
Mary Blake, GBH News.
You know,
yeah, I
used to listen. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I mean, she's absolutely the real deal. A shoe leather reporter goes out there, gets the stories. She's been a great addition here. She's had a great career in the news business, so I wish her the very best. Go ahead.
You know what's really fun about this? I listened to her for years on other stations, most recently before us on BZ Radio.
Yep.
And I don't think I'd ever met her. And when she finally came here, I felt like a little fanboy. And to get to know her and to work beside her, she really is talented and a spectacularly kind soul. So I think on behalf of everybody at GBH, Mary, we're going to miss you. Don't be a stranger, as the saying goes, and lots of luck.
Yeah, Mary Blake, thank you for everything you've done for the reporting business. You've been very distinctive. Anyway, I'm Marjorie Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy. See you tomorrow at the library.
Bye.
Bye.
It is the winter membership drive here on GBH. Please take just a few minutes to invest in your future GBH and Boston Public Radio listening. As a non-profit public service, we count on listener contributions for over 70% of our income. So your gift right now is so important. You don't have to give a whole lot to make a difference. Just $50 or $100 or maybe $10 or $15 a month really matters. Please give online at gbhnews.org or call 888-897-9424. I'm Maeve Buckley, and I'm joined by Mark Cohen.
And right now we're looking for 15 contributions in these final 6 minutes of Jim and Marjorie. Meeting that goal will help us stay on track for the membership drive, and it will ensure that we have the money needed to pay for even more of your Boston Public Radio listening in the months ahead. So if you can, please give $10 or $15 a month, maybe more if that works for your budget. Join us on our Sustainer Plan. Be one of the 15 people we're asking to hear from in these final 6 minutes of the hour. 888-897-9424 online. Look for the donate button over at gbhnews.org.
And when you support GBH, we'd love to say thank you with our Stand With the Facts water bottle. This is a white stainless steel water bottle. It's insulated and it features the statement Stand With the Facts along with the NPR and 89.7 GBH logos. This offer is only available until 7 o'clock this evening. After that is gone for the rest of the membership drive. But now is your last chance to support your Boston Public Radio listening here, listening to Jim and Marjorie here in from 11 to 2 on weekdays. Support your listening. Ask for your Stand With the Facts water bottle as our thanks for that gift of support. $10 per month as a sustaining member or a one-time gift of $120 all at once. 888-897-9424. You can also check out what the water bottle looks like when you give online at gbhnews.org.
And in a world where headlines are affected by bottom lines, we are so glad that we depend on our listeners, on you, for the most important source of our funding. More than 70% of our budget comes from listeners' support, and most of it comes in through gifts of just $10 or $15 a month. Those gifts really do add up to the quality journalism that you trust. We are fueled by listener support. Your support right now, give what you can at 888-897-9424 or go online at gbhnews.org.
And the monthly sustaining membership is the preferred way to support GBH. It's so quick and easy to set up. You just pick an amount for a recurring charge from your bank account or your credit card. And many people start out by giving that $10 per month, but whatever works for you, please take just a couple minutes right now. Make your gift of support. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
And a reminder, we have our Stand with the Facts water bottle. It's our way of saying thanks for your ongoing gift of $10 a month on our Sustainer plan or a one-time gift of $120. Really a great water bottle. It keeps your hot liquids hot, your cold liquids cold. It's got a nice opening on it. If you need to throw some ice cubes in, no problem there. And that cap that keeps the liquid in that Jim was demonstrating all throughout the show, well, it really does work well. It'll keep all that liquid from seeping out. We want to make it yours for $10 a month or $120. Stand with the Facts mug is yours at 888-897-9424. Online at gbhnews.org.
And we are looking for your gift of support right now, helping us reach our goal here. We've got about 4 minutes, just under 4 minutes left to go in this hour. Just 11 more people now to hear from. 11 more gifts of support. That keeps us on track to meet our overall goal in this winter membership drive. So make your contribution right now. If you have yet to do so, you'll feel so glad you're doing your part. 888-897-9424 or give online at gbhnews.org.
Want to send some thanks out. We have James out in North Falmouth. Thank you so much, James. Cheryl in Wellesley, Allison in Millis, and we heard from Miriam in Worcester writing to us. Miriam's reason for giving, because you are awesome. Jim and Marjorie keep me from jumping off the ledge. Thank you so much, Miriam. We hope you will do what James, Cheryl, Allison, and Miriam have done. Leave us a message when you make your show of support right now online at gbhnews.org or by calling 888-897-9424.
And thank you also to Nancy in Quincy, who says she's grateful for GBH. Thank you so much, Nancy. We also heard from a friend in Danvers and a friend in Middletown, Rhode Island, who says, I listen to NPR daily for the first-rate journalism and accurate reporting of news needed now more than ever. Thank you so much. Thank you. Join them. Make your gift of support right now. 888-897-9424 or give online gbhnews.org.
Yeah, thanks to everyone helping us lower our goal now down to 7 more contributions we're asking for in these final 2 minutes of the hour. The giving just takes a couple of minutes of your time. So we're asking you to set aside some time and give as generously as your budget allows. 7 more contributions in about the next 2 minutes. 888-897-9424. Online at gbhnews.org.
And be sure to ask for the Stand with the Facts water bottle as our thanks for that contribution. Just $10 per month as a sustaining member or a one-time gift of $120 all at once. Again, this is going away at 7 o'clock this evening, but you're listening right now. Support your Boston Public Radio listening. Help us reach that goal and ask for the Stand with the Facts water bottle as our thanks. 888-897-9424.